Hello everyone, welcome along to the Nissan GT Sport Cup. We are here in Barcelona alongside the finale for the Blancpain Endurance Championship. That's happening just behind us, outside. You might be able to hear the noise. My name is Ben Constanduros, alongside me, James Kirk. Not normally your role as expert, James. You're normally calling the race play-by-play, but for this weekend, a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely, and what a weekend it is going to be. I think it's absolutely brilliant, honestly, having the cars going on behind us. It's been a gorgeous weekend as well, the weather, and I'm sure it's going to be gorgeous in terms of the racing action. We have some of the best Nissan drivers from across all of GT Sport coming here to very much celebrate Nissan, to celebrate Gran Turismo, to celebrate this partnership between the two. We've got some really cool wildcard drivers in there as well. So much racing action to happen, and I'm just looking forward to getting everything started.
Now, when you think of GT Sport, the Gran Turismo series of races, you always think of Nissan and the partnership they had with the GT Academy. This is now the next step. A couple of years where they haven't had any kind of racing on a platform, but this is now the next step. A slightly different concept. This is about celebrating sim racing and celebrating the talents that we've got downstairs.
Very much so. It's a conversation that we're having now. The whole GT Academy setup, it was something to say, okay, you can drive virtually, that's fine, but I always like to say that e-racing is the most realistic esport out there. The skills are transferable, and so that's the whole point of GT Academy, taking those skills from the virtual world into the real world. But nowadays, esports is huge. E-racing is growing at a phenomenal rate, and people are quite happy to say, well, listen, why can't I just be the best at what I do now already? And that's what Nissan is really here trying to do and trying to promote. They want their best drivers to show their talents off in this competition, which honestly, there's some great prizes available on the line. And as I said earlier, we're going to see some great racing action as well. Some of the top guys, you're going to all love it. I can guarantee you that.
So we had various invitees brought here by Nissan. They are the top racers from GT Sport utilising the Nissan car. And then we had a wildcard competition yesterday on the Sims with people, with locals, but not just locals, people from around Spain and also a couple of guys from France and America coming down to try and qualify for the competition today. Interesting to see some of the characters who did that yesterday as some of the top guys anyway on GT Sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So teams, they have an influence in e-racing. Well, there's not many teams championships, to be honest, but it doesn't say that teams can't sign contracts with drivers. And actually, the guy who topped the wildcard sessions was a certain Coque Lopez, who is a Williams esports driver, well known throughout the scene. It was not a surprise to see him top the timesheets. And well, second was Mr. Matthew Gallagher from WTF1 as well. So it is a very interesting mix of characters. We've got a 50-year-old in there as well, or roughly different age range. We've got different characters. We've got different levels of driving as well. Of course, you've got someone who's Lopez. He's got so much experience in the scene already. It's kind of weird to call him a wild card, but he had to qualify here just like everyone else.
And the reason he did that was because he didn't use a Nissan on the game throughout the year, whereas the other qualifiers have had that Nissan association on GT Sport throughout. Let's have a quick look at the competition format that we've got going for today then. A series of heats, semi-finals and finals, a knockout competition, and a very intense next couple of hours for these guys. Yeah,
absolutely. So once we take a look at this, so it's quite simple. I'll try and walk you through it as slow as possible. So we begin today with 4 heats. Now, these guys have all pre-qualified and they've been drawn into these heats. Variation of drivers across all of them, from some of your top guys to some of your wild cards. That's going to be run on the Autodromo di Monza, and there are going to be no modifiers whatsoever. And what do I mean by modifier? Well, it means no tyre wear and no fuel usage either. So that's going to be flat out to the limit. The top 5 from each of those races progresses through to their brackets respective semi-final. But on top of that, we also have one of the real interesting elements of this cup, which is the mentor's choice. And so the drivers are split up into 2 teams. We've got Team Ricardo and Team Lucas. And both of those guys will have one choice each on either side of the bracket to bring through into the semi-final. So, for example, you can see the ×2 there on either side. They'll have one choice from either Heat 1 or Heat 2 to bring through to that semi-final. It's then very much the same in terms of the top 5 progressing onwards from there. The top 5 from semi-final 1, the top 5 from semi-final 2, they'll go through into the grand final. But there is one final mentor's choice to make. There'll be one choice progressing to the grand final. So there are going to be 12 drivers in each of these races, and is progressing in difficulty as well. From the heats where there's no tyre wear, no fuel usage, to semi-final 2, where there is going to be tyre usage, and some tyre usage is that. We will get to there once we arrive at the semi-finals. And then the grand final, we're going to have an amazing opportunity of strategy with fuel usage, with tyre usage. It's going to be brilliant, and all competing for the a wonderful prize of the invitation to the 2018 NISMO Festival, and also a chance to visit Polyphony Digital HQ over in Japan. It's a lovely sounding trip. I wish I was going on it, and well, I'm loving who's joining us now, Mr. Constanduros.
Yeah, absolutely. Matty G from WTF1, thank you very much for joining us. And you qualified as a wildcard yesterday, something that you've been building up to for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say quite a while. It's been quite an intensive little course we've been doing, but we've been filming for WTF1, doing a series called Project Pro Gamer, where essentially it's not just been me playing the game, it's also been doing sort of psychological stuff and fitness, to kind of give an all-around package to then come to here and try and qualify through the wildcard route.
And you did yesterday, so you're here today partly presenting for us, but also racing as well. 2 heads, that's not so easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I don't expect to get too far. My expectations are quite limited purely because I haven't really played the game that much. I mean, it's only been a 3-week period. I've had 3 essentially sort of courses of all those 3 things I just mentioned. So not too much time on the game. You know, if back in the day when I used to sim race, I'd be hours and hours and hours, and this has been very restricted. So
because you're a busy man.
Busy man, but I'm hoping that I can maybe get through Monza, but that's sort of the limit, I think, for me.
Well, if you don't mind me asking as well, on the physical side of things, I feel like for a lot of the uneducated at home, they would look at e-racing and think, oh, they're just doing it in their bedrooms. Like, you know, they're just going to get, you know, chubby and mudgy like me. But honestly, I've heard
Mudgy's a great word.
Oh, isn't it just right? Yeah. But there's so many more drivers, actually, I've noticed, in terms of the virtual scene, looking to get more physical, looking to get more in shape. How has that affected you? Do you feel stronger? Do you feel more able to do the racing?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the overall package, really. It's giving you more energy. So, for example, the nutrition. So I'd eat whatever I want, basically, whenever I wanted before. But then I tried, you know what, let's try nutrition. Eating salads twice, 3 times a day, it killed me. But at the same time, I was kind of noticing, like 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, I'm actually still energetic, whereas before I'd be kind of crawling home. So in that, I've really noticed a difference. Sim racing-wise, I'm not so sure, but I mean, that would come maybe with more and more time and more fitness. And because it is psychological as well, you know, getting fatigued during a race. These aren't exactly endurance races, what we're going to be doing today, but you know, if you were to do a 6, 12, 24-hour sim race, I'm sure that would definitely play a factor.
Which you've done before. You've had experience in big, long stints, and it is draining, isn't it? The concentration, mainly.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, the 24-hour sim race I did at Simply Race last year actually was crazy. You know, it was weird though. It was almost like I kind of hit a bit of fatigue sort of midway through, and then by the end, my eyes were on stalks. I didn't really know where I was, and then kind of when we finished, I was like, okay, no, I'm very ill. So yeah, and I mean that's the preparation that would go into that kind of thing to help you maintain that sort of consistency right to the 24th hour.
So let's have a quick look then at your journey so far to get to this point.
Oh no!
And in a few moments' time, you're going to be participating in heats.
I haven't actually seen this.
Previously on Project Pro Gamer, Matty announced the ridiculous idea that he has entered himself as a wildcard entry for this year's Nissan GT Sport Cup in Barcelona, and we learned that he may have some work to do on his fitness.
Wow, I've never seen a man shake so much. And again, the feet are now ugly as well.
What's the timing like?
I can only count proper reps, so I can't start yet.
On this week's episode,
how are we getting rid
with
of
only
Matt?
3 weeks to go, Matty finds out what driver training exercises esports drivers go through to help their brake application, improve their reaction times and their peripheral vision.
So here we go, eye tracking time. I'm kind of concerned as to where I look because clearly professional racing drivers probably look in a different parts of the track than I do, but it'll be interesting to see what that looks like and where I should be looking. At least I'm not looking down here, I am actually focused on the track.
How
How was that with the eye tracker?
I don't know, I just feel like where I'm looking is probably wrong, because I'm pretty sure the normal human being doesn't look in the same places that racing drivers do.
Not only was I lucky enough to get an insight into how an F1 driver prepares, I also spent some time with two extremely quick GT Sport drivers to run me through the little tips and tricks I'll need to adapt to quickly for when it comes to the wildcard competition in Barcelona. Oh, and has anyone noticed the stupid face I pull every time I brake? It's literally every single time.
Partner to this live event and follow Matty's story. Hopefully it goes a bit further. Looks like you've been through a lot though. You really have done everything in preparation for this.
Yeah, I've been through a lot. That eye tracking thing in particular was really, really interesting. I was kind of mind blown as to where Kevin Magnussen was looking compared to me. It was very much like dealing with everything as it hits me, whereas Kevin's looking halfway down the circuit, it looked like. So it was crazy, and it's been a really cool journey and something that I'd like to sort of continue moving forward in my own personal time.
Yeah, most of these guys will have some kind of stadium racing experience, but how different is it racing alongside a person with your competitor right there in comparison to on an online event where basically you're in your bedroom or in your front room?
It is different, yeah. I think I was speaking to Jan Mardenbury yesterday, and he was saying that tips were just to basically pretend that you are in your own, you're in your own room and you can't see these other people or even know who these other people are. You don't want to do your research and find out this person's won 7 titles and blah blah blah, because that's not going to help your mentality going into it. For me, I'm quite chilled anyway. I'm just happy to be here. Glad that I qualified. Hopefully, maybe get through the Italian Grand Prix, as I say. But for me, I'm pretty chill and pretty relaxed. But I know a lot of these guys want to win this more than life itself, and that'll be interesting to see. Which is something I also learned, whether their psychological aspect will kick in and they'll actually be quite slow, and then maybe I can take advantage of that. Who knows?
And there will certainly be some chaos in all of these races with only 5 laps around Monza, which is our first heat. That is incredibly short race. That's going to, 6-7 minute race. There's a lot to do in that very short period of time, so there's going to be some chaos to pick up on.
Oh yeah, and I've got to get in the top 5, and there may be some dive bombs into turn 1. Who knows? But it'll be interesting for you guys to commentate. But obviously, getting through turn 1 and 2 will be the good, cleanly would be nice. But I think it's going to be absolute carnage. So I can't wait.
I guess it's a certain advantage though to say, oh hi, I'm at Monza. That's a track that at least. Whereas, actually, in our grand final, we've got Fuji coming up. It was only released to the public on Wednesday, and so very few have actually had a chance to drive it. So having a knowledge of the track at the very least, it's surely going to take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, that's why I'm quite happy to go into Monza. I'm like, okay, maybe I have a chance, but Bathurst, is not in an F1 game, and that's the only things I know. So I've had about 10 laps around there. Was absolute chaos yesterday.
So, drivers for Heat 1 are already in their rigs. Just a quick word on the rigs. We're using fantastic play seat rigs and Thrustmaster TGT steering wheel and pedal set, and the brand new GT Sport game. And this, we've got 12 guys, all with the adjudicators standing behind. We've got adjudicators for 2 rigs to make sure that all the drivers are within the rules. We've got race control, as you would normally have in a normal racing situation, but with the benefit of the computers, actually the game itself recognizing incident and therefore clipping up incident for the race control to then review. I tell you, there's lots of people out there, race control and race directors, who would love the system that we have on GT Sport to clip up incident.
It's comprehensive, and it is all the more impressive seeing it from behind the scenes, Ben. And actually, I mean, GT Sport in itself already does a very good job of track cuts, and so once we go in game, you'll be able to most likely see at certain points, well, you'll have the overlay, so you'll be able to see which driver is in which car. But then if they were to cut the track, or if, dare I say it, they were to have an incident with someone else which was adjudicated to be their fault, you'll see a little red bar pop up, and that's a time penalty. They've got to serve that within the race by slowing down. It's a brilliant system. It makes sure that the racing is fair, and I'm sure we're going to see some brilliant racing regardless. And let me tell you about those Playseat Sensation Pro rigs. They are gorgeous. They are lovely to sit in. At home, it varies from driver to driver as to what you use. I mean, for me personally, back in the day, I'd be sitting down in an office chair with a with a DualShock 4 controller, just, you know, going about. And I think we are ready to go in. These guys, of course, are really spoiled with the luxury. And here we are, Ben. Our first grid of the evening. It's Heat 1.
Leon Ackermann on the pole position from Netherlands. Joel Sansonatus from France alongside him. And Coco Lopez in third position. Coco was one of our wildcard drivers, as we've already mentioned, qualified yesterday. He'll be in that black machine right there. Manuel Ricon is fourth position. And then from Hungary, Ben Bada in the blue machine. And then Patrick Adamczyk will be alongside him on row 3 from Poland. Already you're getting the feel of how European this event is. Sylvain Gauthier, a wildcard entry from France in the green machine. And then Georg Louis from Portugal. Get my mouth and my teeth in. Jeffrey Donkers in P9. And then Michael Draber, P10. Ferran Grau is P12. Ahead of him, though, Jose Palazon in that turquoise machine.
It's very colourful looking grid. I love the livery enter. And we've got some big names in here from GT Sport in general. Actually, the man that we're looking at right now, Rincon, goes by the online tag of Manu Rodri, one of the top 24 superstars, legends of this 2018 season over in the Gran Turismo. Surprising to see Ben Bada actually down there in P5, part of the Team Hungary Nations Cup victors just a week ago at the GT World Tour event. They're going to have a tough job fighting their way through the field as we start this race.
Yeah, it's a rolling start for all of these races. It's almost a one-by-one start, the way that these races go. And as you can see, instantly into slipstreaming formation here in Monza. These cars have a big, wide, punch a huge hole in the air, and therefore the slipstream is absolutely vital. Ackermann defensive on the inside line. Sansonatus in second position slots in. The chaos doesn't really begin until we get to the next chicane. Everyone very well behaved through the first chicane. Just having a look on the left-hand side of the screen to see if we've had any movers. Draber's dropped down to 12th position. And plenty of changes, but nothing too dramatic as Lopez challenges Sansonatus coming into the second chicane. Sansonatus a little bit later on the brakes, goes deeper into that second chicane. De La Roja and a big wiggle from Ackermann at the front.
Yeah, Lopez is going to be one of the favourites going into this one, that much is for sure. Ackermann, of course, taking pole. He is another one who's been in and out of the top 24 superstars. Definitely not the favourite, though. I was looking to the likes of Bada to Rincon to really push on, but Coque Lopez not to be underestimated and putting Sansonatus under a lot of early pressure. I mean, look at this, going straight up into the slipstream as we head towards the legendary Ascari chicane. We're going to watch out on the exit as well. Very easy to pick up a time penalty by going over track limits here. Early stages, though, not going to risk the car. I'd say that's probably a good thing. You only need to qualify inside the top 5, Ben.
And remember exactly the point. The top 5 will go automatically through. It will set the position on the grid as to where you start the semi-final from, as we see one machine going very wide. The green machine at the back of shot, they're going very wide at the exit of Ascari. May well pick up a time penalty for that. There are certain parts of the track where there aren't time penalties, and there are certain parts where you do get pinged. All of these drivers will know exactly where those places are. But as I say, top 5 go through, then you just have to attract the attention of your mentor. Team Ricardo, Team Lucas, that's Ricardo Sanchez, the 2014 GT Academy winner, and Lucas Ordóñez is here. Sansonatus goes to the outside line to try and take the lead of this race. Ackermann defending on the inside, and thinks better of it. That was a sensible move from the Frenchman not to try and force the issue. He's been slow through the chicane, and he's backed up Ben Bader to try and go around the outside here of Coco Lopez. A little bit of touching between the two of them. He's now on the outside, and Lopez has the slipstream on the inside. Lopez now trying to make it 3 wide. That's not sensible at all. All these guys are through at the moment, but if anybody makes a mistake, they'll drop out of that top 5.
Oh, and that was a little bit late on the brakes there from Vada. Coque Lopez forced wide, and look at that. Brilliant drive from Rincon on the inside to see the incident going on ahead. He's now going to pick up that 4th position. All of this helping Ackermann, who's striding on ahead. And we can see already that incident between Lopez and Vada has allowed Sansonatus to move on ahead. You're absolutely right. They need to be careful because right now they've got a 2-second advantage over Adam Schick in 6th. Don't need to risk the car at this early stage, but then again, they're racers. Of course they want to risk the car. They want to be on the podium. And Rincon going to look around the outside of Ascari here on Lopez. This would be an outstanding move if he gets it done. Oh, and he gets it done at that as well. Brilliant move from Manuel Rincon. He moves his way up into 3rd with style.
And it really puts Lopez on the back foot there. Has to get out of it, and he's now under pressure from Ben Bader. And it is bringing Adam Schick back into the fray here. Adam Schick in that yellow machine just at the back of shot, not quite close enough to make a move and get himself into the top 5 for the moment, but any more arguing between these two and Adam Schick will have a chance to automatically qualify. Lopez been slightly bullied over the last couple of laps, and he's dropped down to that 5th position. He now needs to compose himself and start pushing forward as we go on to lap 3 of the race. Complete lap 3 onto lap 4. This is only a 5-lap race. Huge slipstream from Lopez. Lopez goes to the outside. Can he brake later as well to slot into 4th position? Oh, he's just got the overlap. Keeps the inside line for the 2nd chicane. Great move from Lopez. And I can hear downstairs there's applause from the Spaniards. Of course, we are in Barcelona. Plenty of Spanish support. I think 16 Spanish drivers across the 4 heats. And Lopez moves himself back into 4th. Bader settling down into 5th position, but he'll see in his mirrors there's a yellow machine there, and that's the pole. Patrick Adamczyk, who wants to automatically qualify, and he needs to get past at least one of those cars ahead of him to do so.
Yeah, so this is a real cruise liner of the GT3 category, this Nissan, honestly. It punches a hole through the air, so much so that the slipstreaming in the Manufacturers' Cup over in the FIA Gran Turismo Championships, it was known this was its trait, and at Monza it destroyed every other single car on the grid because of that attribute. You've got to be careful though, because we saw a slight negative of the car. If it slows down too much, boy oh boy is it slow to get up from the lower side of the gears. Bader now going to look around the outside of Ascari as well. I was not expecting the outside of Ascari to be the overtaking opportunity, and on this occasion it bites him. All of a sudden, Adamczyk, who was a 2 seconds away, he's now back in this battle for the top 5, and he's dragging Gautier with him.
And what about Sylvain Gautier? Here he comes to the outside of Adamczyk. Gautier, a French journalist, would you believe, who's come here to cover the event, and he actually managed to qualify. He's going to try and go around the outside into 5th position. Surely he's not going to be able to do that. He's got 1 position, and there's no room. Bader squeezes. We'll just have a quick look further back at Jeffrey Donkers in 8th position. But now Gautier up into 6th, Adamczyk down to 7th, Gautier looking for an automatic qualifying. Bader is providing a huge slipstream. He doesn't have anything for himself, and Gautier is going to be able to get an overlap here. 3 wide, not sensible into that first chicane, but Gautier is up into 5th position. And Bader drops out of the automatic qualifying positions.
Case in point, and he's only got 2 more laps to try and rescue this position as well. It's a real shame. I mean, a week ago he was celebrating in victory with his compatriots, with Team Hungary, but now he's being absolutely bullied thanks to the slipstreaming nature of these cars. We'll have a little look into the De La Rosière chicane to see whether he can fight back. He throws it up the inside, and that's a similar move to what he was trying to do earlier. Same result though, Gautier forced wide. He's going to keep the position for now.
Yeah, but Gautier did cut across the chicane. I wonder whether he'll pick up a penalty for that. He was forced to do so because there was absolutely no room. But Gautier holding on for the moment. You don't want to necessarily be ahead at this point. Gautier does not have a slipstream from Lopez. Lopez is too far ahead, but he's punching the hole in the air for Bader and Adamczyk. A warning for Adamczyk for a collision with another car. We'll see that at the end of the race through the replays. Gautier goes defensive on the inside line here into Ascari. Bader's done this before to try and go around the outside. Doesn't have the overlap this time through, and it stays the same. But still a slipstream into the Parabolica, still a slipstream to the line as well.
Yeah, it's crucial that he upsets Gautier as much as possible, because I don't think he's going to go for the full overtake around the outside of Parabolica. They've got to be mindful of Adamczyk here, who's watching Brief, going into the Parabolica. Now, he is going to try around the outside. Surely not. They're going to go side by side now. This is just going to allow the Polish driver in. We've got a three-way fight going down to turn one, Ben, and I'm not quite sure what order they're going to come out in.
We're on the final lap now, so Ackermann has crossed the line 1.8 seconds ahead of Sansonatus. 3 wide over the start line for 1 lap to go. Gautier has the inside line. Bader's going to be squeezed between the 3 of them, and Adamczyk is on the left-hand side. How are they all going to get through here in one go? They do manage it. Lovely and clean. Adamczyk trying to go around the outside of Bader, move himself up into 6th position. He does manage. It's great to hear the applause downstairs as well. This is one of the things you don't get in real life racing. The spectators enjoying it, the applause from the people around as well, and it's still fighting, gasps from the crowds downstairs. Gautier doesn't know how to defend here. It's got Bader and Adamczyk fighting, trying to find a way past, and again the Frenchman holds on. Bader's round into the gravel. Oh, the Hungarian is out of it.
There are only so many times, Ben, when you can go 3 wide into a corner, and unfortunately that was unlucky number 3 for Bader. A real shame there. I wonder whether the mentors are going to be looking at him as a potential wildcard choice. Clearly had the pace, also clearly ran out of luck, unfortunately, as we're very nearly ending this race in general. The leaders are just going onto the back straight now, actually.
Adamczyk didn't spin there, but he was certainly delayed by that. Slowdown penalty for Gautier, 2 seconds. Have a look. What's the advantage he's got over Donkers? It's 4 seconds, so he should not lose a position, and he will have a penalty, and it's been removed anyway. So no penalty given for Gautier. Race controller decided it wasn't him to blame. We'll have a replay of that in a moment. But here comes Ackermann towards the line. It's been a controlled race from the front. Fastest in qualifying. He takes victory by 2 seconds over Joel Sansonatus. And Manuel Ricon coming across the line for 3rd position. Quite spaced out between those guys. Once they broke the slipstream, a penalty for Adamczyk, 1.8 second penalty that will be applied as he crosses the line, so he'll drop down the order. And here is the highlights. Well, as you would expect, an absolutely epic run in Heat 1 here for the Nissan GT Sport Cup. There is the results. Ackermann, Sansonatus, Rijon, Lopez and Sylvain Gautier will go through a fantastic race for that 5th position spot. So unlucky that Ben Bader dropped down to 8th position by the end. Adamczyk 7th. Didn't see anything of Jeffrey Donkers there in 6th position. He won't go through. But anyone below 6th position will have to rely on the mentors to put them through. A little penalty, as you can see on the right-hand side, for Adamczyk. Otherwise, a very, very clean race, which was fantastic to see. considering I reckon if that was a real race, there'll be far more damage and far more ruined GTRs.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the wonderful thing is there aren't any payments to worry about when it comes to car pieces. So they feel like it's a little bit more viable to do so. I mean, that move around the outside of Ascari by Rincon, all he had to do was be in the top 5 to qualify, but he still felt he could do it, and we were treated to a wonderful move. I'm looking at Donkers, I'm looking at Bada, and I'm looking at Adamczyk as potential options for the mentors to pick up. I think Bada in particular, he didn't show his best. After last week where he looked on such great form at the World Tour, he definitely got caught out by the slipstreaming element of those cars. And, well, obviously we will see. I mean, we're going to actually have a little look at the replay, hopefully, of that Rincon overtake. We'll see whether he does get picked up eventually. This was the incident. Now, I think it was no contact. I think Bada actually just got caught out on that really tricky inside curb on the exit of the De La Rosière chicane, which is where the mistake between himself and Adamczyk.
Let's have a quick look then. He turns in, and I think just a little touch there from Adamczyk. Graphics-wise, there's no contact as such between the two, but certainly the character of the car sort of moved, didn't it? Again, when you've got 3 people trying to get through those chicanes, and it's weird, the TV view of any given racetrack makes a track look so wide, makes a track look so big. Yeah. But those tracks are narrow, and they are narrower when you're driving a Nissan GTR, because those are big cars to try and thread through those very narrow chicanes.
Take it from me, Monza is not a track, even though it's made for overtaking, where I would never expect to see 3 wide, and especially 3 wide as long as that went on. For Gautier, though, a wildcard entrant, getting into the top 5, I know that Coque Lopez was also a wildcard entrant, but we know what he's capable of as a driver. Gautier, he's done incredibly well for himself, but it's straight into Heat 2 now. And we've got some pretty interesting characters in here as well. The big one I'm looking at is Loris Garnier. Goes as Al. He's actually a Williams esports driver, a teammate to Coque Lopez. And I'm looking at him, the man on pole position, to possibly run away with it, much like Ackerman did in race 1.
So the grid then, as you say, Loris Garnier has the pole position. Always the pole position car is the red machine because they sit in those particular pods. So Loris Garnier from France on the pole position in the number 1 machine. In second position, Bruno Ferreira from Portugal was very fast in practice and in our qualifying race or practice race that we had yesterday evening. Matthias Vetch, the Polish driver, in third position. Then we have Rocamora from Spain in fourth position. He was one of our wildcards. Al-Qaeda was another who qualified as a wildcard. We've actually got 5 wildcard entries in this particular race. Nick Ertz from Belgium in 6th position. And then Wenceslas Montronchic from France, fantastic, best name of the entrance. Another Frenchman, Frédéric Deschamps, in 8th spot, one of the elder gentlemen. And then we have Marc Rijon in 9th spot, Federico Ortega in 10th position. And the last row of the grid is Gerard Martinez, another of our wildcard Spaniards, and Ruben Ropero. So, loads of Spaniards, not quite enough to definitely guarantee one will go through, but plenty of them, 6 in total. Loads of wildcards as well. In fact, it's the race with the most wildcard entrants in, so we're expecting maybe 1 or 2 through. Great work from Al-Qaeda, certainly, and Rocamora to get into the top 5. They beat out Nick Ertz, who's a bit part top 24 Superstars player, so they're already doing well in qualifying. It all matters in the race, though. They need to get into the top 5. They need to stay in the top 5. So we've got 16 Spaniards that we've mentioned, but we've also got 10 Frenchmen in the 4 heats. And we are underway and racing for 5 laps around Monza, Heat 2. And again, into the slipstream, following the planes in the sky with the Italian flag. Lovely little effect there from GT Sport, and the developers have worked so hard, also alongside the guys here, making this a fantastic platform for esports. Again, very clean through the first chicane so far, and everyone has made it through without contact, but it is always the second chicane where things start to kick off. Loris Garnier, though, has already made a bid for freedom. He's already got half a second advantage over Bruno Ferreira. Coming up to that second chicane, who's looking to make a move? Maybe Vetch to the inside, not quite close enough. And again, a small gap emerging between the top 6 and behind.
Yeah, they've been looking at, there's someone over the chicane there. I think that was Ortega, or was it Alcaid? Sorry. Yeah, Alcaide over the chicane and down to P5 he goes. He's got to be careful as a cone goes flying off into the gravel. We'll get a quick replay of that. And yeah, just outbraking himself ever so slightly. You've got to be careful. The slipstream effect is powerful and it affects the braking phase as well. You've got to be a little bit earlier with that much slipstreaming action going on. Lucky to get away with it as we head towards Ascari. Like you say, very clean. They've been learning from the mistakes made throughout the 2018 season of Gran Turismo, most certainly. We had incidents every single time at the first chicane. Lovely to see it so clean.
Absolutely fantastic to see it so clean. There's Nick Ertz from Belgium. He's the only Belgian driver in this particular field of 40-odd competitors. And he sits just outside that top 5 cutoff in the slipstream of Alcaide. Again, one of the elder gentlemen of the series. And Vetch has run a little bit deep through the parabolic. He's going to lose a position to Rocamora there. Let's see what happened.
Again, they're just completely missing the braking zone under slipstream. It's what we can expect from these wildcard drivers, though. Vetch not one of them, surprisingly, and looking to take back P3 now to rectify his error. Going into the first chicane, that was nice, that was simple. Rocamora maybe caught out a little bit, and Vetch retaking that P3 position. He won't want to be making that mistake again, that's for certain.
Well, he's in a pretty safe position, to be honest. P3, decent gap down to the battle for P5, and everybody else, the battle for P8 is very, very furious. Nick Ertz is going to drop into that because I saw was given a penalty for collision with another car, 2-second penalty. Sits in 6th position at the moment, but he's going to be right in that battle of things once he's cleared that penalty.
Oh.
Great to see. Even if this is not for any important positions, the mentors will be looking at how these drivers conduct themselves in this battle. And Frédéric Deschamps there, the Frenchman, right in the centre of all of the action in 9th spot.
You might as well have stuck a snowplow on there, but it's not winter though, you've got to be careful. Those moves can come off into the De La Rozier chicane, but we saw in Heat 1 already, more often than not, they are not going to come off. They're going to put you at more risk of picking up contact, picking up a penalty. And when you're that far back, you need to be relying on the guys. Again, yeah, you've got to be careful, Deschamps, most certainly, because otherwise you're going to be finding yourself way down the order. It's what proved to be Donker's redemption throughout race 1, actually, was he kept it clean and he got a decent position out of it. And that's something that the mentors are going to be looking at as well. Not necessarily just pure pace, but can you make it to the end of the race without contact? Can you make it through the rest of the pack while everyone else falls off?
Well, the back of this particular pack has got penalties. Looks like both Rapero and Ortega have got penalties in 11th and 12th positions, so they're going to be dropping even further back. Nick Ertz has cleared his penalty, sits in 6th position, and he's got the slipstream from Alcaide, goes to the left-hand side, so that's not the preferred side, but if he can get an overlap, then at least he'll be on the inside for the chicane. He cannot, not this time anyway. And he's still not quite fully qualified. What's going on there? Dropped to 7th quickly. Somebody's dropped out.
Deschamps, he's gone now. He's gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Deschamps missing his braking point and momentarily overtaking everybody by jumping the chicane there. And quick look, there he is on going left-hand side. So all these guys dropping a position, and then once they repass him, getting that position back again. Plenty of chaos in the back of this field.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's possibly the worst cars to get it as well, because that means that there is pretty much no chance that they're going to be getting up into the top 5. Nick Ertz, I've definitely got a little bone to pick with him because his PS4 username is a load of consonants and numbers. I've shortened it to YOLO because those are the 3 capital letters in there, but he's someone who, honestly, at this sort of event, with so many wildcard entries in this particular race as well, he really should be inside the top 5. And funnily enough, he's up against a wildcard rival in Alcaide, he's had an all-right start to this race, but he's been making mistakes. He's been a little bit unsure of himself, and that is the sort of opportunity that Nick Ertz is looking for. Is lap 3 of 5? There's still plenty of time, there's still plenty of overtaking opportunities as Deschamps there picks up another 5-second slowdown penalty for contact with another car.
Oh, Alcaide's
going
run
wide.
Deep.
Yeah.
Run deep into the parabolica, gets back on but has a wiggle and loses that automatic qualification spot. Nick Ertz up into 5th position. that perhaps is just that pressure of racing in this kind of environment. These wildcards probably don't have that much experience in racing in this environment. Of course, what it has done, though, is given him a slingshot, and it's given him the slipstream and Nickets. You can see how powerful that was, dragging him straight back into contention. Tries to go around the outside, has the inside line for the next corner, and forces himself back into 5th position. Applause downstairs. But look, Montrond-Chick is also there. The Frenchman went to slash Montrond-Chick, has a double slipstream from the two, won't know where to go, and if he can let the car run to the outside line, it'll be better than following Nickets. Follow Al-Qaeda whilst he can, but gets on the brakes early and lets the two of them sort themselves out. They're very, very deep into the chicane, and Montrond-Chick's going to try.
Oh, no. That was such smart driving going into the chicane, honestly, just letting them fight out ahead. Unfortunately, because Hertz was so slow on the exit, he completely misjudged it, went into the back of him, and that completely unsettled the car, so much so it's now a complete domino effect, relegated to the back of the field. A shame there, but for Hertz, he's able to pick up that position, although Al-Qaeda, I mean, we talk about tactical mistakes, and I feel like he's trying to make a couple of those now. I know they're just mistakes, but I'm trying to cover you up. And oh my goodness, going so late to Ascari as well, trying to muscle his way around the outside. Surely not. Side by side on exit as well. The Spade, almost going into the side of S. That could have been a horrifying T-bone maneuver if that had gone the other way. Thankfully for Nick, at least, he survives for now.
Yes, but he now doesn't have a slipstream. He doesn't have anybody to pull him along. And look how powerful that slipstream is going into Parabolica. I think that's a little bit late on the brakes from Al-Qaeda, but he manages to gather it up. Both cars are carrying a decent amount of damage. It was Montrond-Chick who ran wide at the Lesmo chicanes, and he was part of this group, but now is down in 12th. So again, another one perhaps for the mentors to take a look at. Montrond-Chick is Team Ricardo, so Ricardo will be taking a quick look. Al-Qaeda again looking to get back into 5th position. Has he managed to do it down the straight? Yes, he has. Lovely stuff. And look, the rest of that group is following through now.
He went over the curbing, though, on the exit, and he's picked up a penalty as well, and that has completely thrown him out of contention for that top 5. For Ertz as well, he couldn't have had a better exit. There's no one behind him. Rejon not on the same page. In fact, he's got Martinez behind to watch out for, so that could have been the break that Nick Ertz needed all race.
Let's see, though. Remember, he's still providing a slipstream for those guys, and we know how powerful it is. We haven't really seen Rejon in the leading contending group. Again, another of the wildcard drivers, and amazing to see Rockamora as a wild card in 4th position, so he's going to qualify through. Still question marks over this 5th position spot. It all looks settled ahead of them, but is Nick Ertz going to be able to hold on with 3 cars trying to get past him in the slipstream? Ertz has got to be super, super clean going through the Ascari and the Parabolica. This is the last lap.
Good news, there's no attacking into Ascari. Bad news, it looks like Rejon's taking it pretty okay as well, which means that we've got the Parabolica left, Ben, and I've seen a few juicy shots up the inside, but it's not going to happen as Garnier rounds the final corner.
As you said, the favourite, the pole position man, Loris Garnier, coming towards the line, and he is victor number 2 in Heat 2. Ferreira in 2nd, Vetch in 3rd, Rockamora in 4th, and it does look like Nick Ertz is going to hold on for 5th position. Just about manages to keep a gap between him and Rejon, and he does pick up that 5th position spot. So let's take a look at the results then. Garnier, Ferreira 2.8 back. Vetch 5 seconds back. Rocamora, the wild card, in 4th position. And then once again we saw that wonderful battle for the final qualifying spot between Nick Ertz, who finished in 5th position, and Al-Qaid, who finished down in 11th spot. You got me stretching. And Montronchik in 12th position. Got to be one of the guys to look at for a mental spot, Montronchik, because the way he dealt with that second chicane, where he pulled back, let those guys battle through, really should have been a wonderful passing move had they not made mistakes ahead of him.
He was very unlucky. And so even though he finished last, I think he was on the pecking order, we've seen enough pace. And honestly, if he hadn't made that mistake, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say that he would be finishing in P5 right now because he had the pace. I liked what Al-Qaeda was showing as well, but that 5th position was really dealt with in 2 major instances. First of all, of course, Montronchik misjudging how fast those 2 were going on the exit of the chicane. But Al-Qaeda, that slight mistake on the exit of Parabolica, it was just... That was the first one, and then there was another mistake over the curbing of the De La Roger. Then there was another mistake, and then another one, and ultimately you cannot, in 5-lap races around Monza, you cannot afford to make too many of those, and it really paid dividends.
So he's pulled back there, and he wants a slingshot out of the turn, but both of the 2 ahead are so slow that he then has to pull back, loses the grip, and I think it was the next corner, the Lesmos, where he then ran deep and fent off the track.
And honestly, that's a mistake that anyone could make. Like that's not a rookie mistake by any stretch of the imagination. It goes back to this point about the cars in the lower gears. They take a while to move through them, and so if you're not as fully prepared for that when it comes to the race itself, especially on the De La Roger chicane, where one mistake can slow you down significantly. I mean, if I was a mentor, I would be looking at him most certainly. But for the top 4, finishing in the as they've started, I think they've all done incredibly well. A very quiet race for the majority of them. And for Ertz as well, I told you needed to get into 5th. And, well, you did it, so well done.
Right then, let's get on to Heat 3. Now, Heat 3 is a big one.
It's stacked. It is properly stacked. We have Michael Hizal, also known as Lightning, from Team Redline. He's on pole position. He is a danger man and a half. We've got some other guys, but I'll let you go through the grid.
As you say, so Michael Hizal on the pole position for Germany, a man well known in the GT Sport circles. Zarco, he was the fastest man in qualifying yesterday evening for Hungary. And then Roman Saar in 3rd position for France. Nikodem Wisniewski, a very well-known man in all forms of sim racing. He lines up in 4th position. Ugo Gusnelli in 5th position for France. Niels Matic in 6th position for Germany. And then Ivan Ortega in 7th position, one of the Spaniards that qualified. Christopher Poiret from France in 8th, not Poir, not a pair. Loris Rodriguez in 9th position for Spain. And then Ben Perrin in 10th position. Plenty of French in this one. 11th spot for the Brits, one of just 2 Brits, Jason Newton in 11th position, and Fabio Milone, the only Italian and probably the oldest man in the field. He lines up at the back of the pack.
Yeah, so the 2 people that you're looking out for there that I was also alluding to, Wisniewski and Gustinelli. They form, along with Hizal, this wonderful 3-way esports team battle between Team Redline, Williams with Wisniewski, and Oscaro with Gustinelli. It promises to be an amazing race just between those 5. Great job to Saka and Saar to get in the top 5. Let's get Heat 3 underway.
Only one wild card in this one. That is Rodriguez sitting in 9th position. So that all of these guys have qualified through using a Nissan in GT Sport throughout their season, throughout their year. They are the best Nissan drivers on GT Sport, and they head down towards the first chicane. This is going to be the most competitive of all of the races that we've got so far. All trying to be nice and clean. Zarka trying to go down the inside of Hizal. Wisniewski's off in the gravel as well. Whether he was helped or not by Gustinelli, we'll find out a little bit later on. He rejoins in 9th position for Wisniewski, so a huge amount of work to do for the Polish driver. but a very, very fiery move from our Hungarian Zarco at the front of the field, trying to take that move, trying to take the position on the first lap, first corner. Didn't make it stick. He sits in second spot, but he's fired up.
It was Wisniewski and Saar that got into contact. Wisniewski actually had a really good move around the outside, and I think that Saar was trying to turn in just a little bit, caught the end side of Wisniewski's car. Both of them falling down the order. Wisniewski more than Saar. I'm sure Race Control will be taking a little look at that. Loving the punchiness from Zarco to take it up against Hizal, one of the legends of the GT scene at the moment. Absolutely loving it. And for Ortega and Matic, 3 positions on a plate. They're up to 4th and 5th already.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking fiery here is Ortega, going to the inside line for the Ascari chicane. Decides against it this time. As you said, Constanduros is a very, very well-known name and well-known driver in GT Sport, and Ortega trying to get past him and into the top 3. Top 5 qualify. We're watching Heat 3 of the GT Sports Nissan Cup here. Just Nissan drivers, but the very, very best of GT Sport. European-wide, this really effectively is a European final for GT Sport, and that association between GT Sport and Nissan continuing past 10 years. Can you believe that Lucas Ordóñez was GT Academy winner in 2008? That's 10 years ago. Makes me feel very old.
At the age of 23, I'm feeling old, Ben, so thank you very much for reminding me. As Matty there looking on the outside of Ortega as well. Ortega just defending for now. And what I'm really liking about these guys always that they're not leaving too much on the table in terms of their pace. And a reminder just to you guys at home that we actually have an increasing difficulty throughout these races as well. So what you're seeing right now at Monza, there's no tyre wear, there's no fuel usage. It is just pedal to the metal, going as fast as you can around the Temple of Speed. There will be more modifiers added throughout the evening, but these guys very much just looking to try and get the fastest race time, as fast to the checkered flag as possible. The key, of course, is finishing in those top 5 positions, and Matic with a 1.2 second advantage over Saar. It's looking good for those guys, as long as they don't get into any incidents, and certainly for these top 2 men, more pressure than anything. I'm loving what Zarco is doing. He's not necessarily looking for a move immediately, but he's trying to put Hizal under pressure, and he had a very checkered end to the end of his to the 2018 Gran Turismo season. He's had a good week last week in terms of the Manufacturers' Cup. In fact, Nissan won the Manufacturers' Cup at the World Tour event over in Austria. But Team Germany, they did not do well. There was Poiré just trying to defend off Perrin there. Team Germany did not turn up whatsoever. They had an awful bit of driving as Rodriguez there, almost mirroring it, unfortunately, bashing Perrin out of the way. Hizal, he's looking to bounce back consistently, and he's going to have to fend off this hungry Hungarian if he wants to do that.
At the moment, though, Zarco would be sensible to stay where he is. At the moment, he would qualify into the semi-final. He'll start on row 2 of that semi-final, so doesn't need to push too hard. They've got a good gap, at 2.6 seconds over Constanduros. The question mark for me, Wisniewski 5 seconds behind Saar. Wisniewski 7th. He's miles out of qualifying, which is a huge surprise for the Williams driver, the Polish, who is well known across all forms. He was actually in the WRC final a couple of months ago using WRC platform. We've seen him using R-Factor and iRacing as well, and he's got a warning for a collision with another car. Was that the collision at the start of the race? Has only just been sorted? Perhaps it was. 5 seconds back. Ortega dive bombs into 3rd position.
That is a gorgeous... I wasn't expecting that.
No,
otherwise I would have been like, oh, but wow, that was bold, and it worked beautifully for Ortega, the Spaniard, moving up into P3 past Hugo. He's not afraid of the name, most certainly. And yeah, it's interesting that Race Controller said that Wisniewski was at fault for that first incident, because I'd be looking at him down the order and thinking, instant choice for Mentor's pick. Surely. It's Nikodem Wisniewski. He's got so much experience, so much pace, but if it's all fallen to pieces in the heat finals, then what's to say that it'll get even worse in the semis?
And it's not as though he's closing the gap to Saar either. Ortega with a 7.5 second penalty.
Ouch.
That's huge. Sits in 3rd position at the moment, but he's going to go back behind Wisniewski, I think, with that penalty. Now, he can serve this penalty in the braking zones. He can serve this penalty on the straights. If he comes out of the throttle, that penalty will start to reduce. If he brakes earlier than the computer would expect, that penalty will also reduce. At the moment, though, he's flat to the metal. He's driving as he would do if he gets to the end of the race with that penalty still. It'll be added on. So it's better, really, isn't it, to serve that penalty during the race in the braking zones, perhaps. Brake earlier, reduce the penalty. But he doesn't do it into the first chicane.
Yeah, you would think so as well. Look at Matic throwing it up the inside of Gustinelli as well. Hugo not really enjoying life at the moment. He's lost 2 positions in the space of 2 laps. What we saw over the course of the 2018 Gran Turismo Championships in general was they would serve their penalty at the very end. The thought process behind that being we can use as much pace as we can on track, get as far ahead of everyone else as possible, and then serve all of the penalty at the end. It can serve quite well, but I do like your idea as well. Honestly, it just depends on what sort of a driver you are. As Gustinelli there not only retakes 4th position, but means that Matic picks up a 1.3 second penalty as well for going over the chicane. That might allow Saar back into that battle as well.
Well, remember, Saar is actually qualified in 6th position because they've got Ortega ahead of them with that huge penalty. This is actually all the qualifiers here, and the person now just outside the qualification spot is Wisniewski. But with Matic 1.2 penalty, he's not going to drop close enough to Wisniewski, so he'll still stay qualified at the moment with about a lap and a bit to go. Very close between those two. Matic has served a bit of that penalty in the braking zone there. He's lost almost a second, but you see, hasn't really lost a second relative on track.
Yeah, it's even though it says 7.5 seconds up the road with Ortega, it's not as clear-cut as you might think when it looks to the standings. Is Saar going to look around the outside of Parabolica? In fact, he's clean past already. Matic choosing just to serve all the penalty in the middle of the race, like your strategy was suggesting. So Saar moves up to P5 on track. But actually, this is brilliant from Matic, because now, not only has he served that penalty, but he's got the slipstream advantage on the final lap. Could not be more perfect timing.
And I think Ortega has lost about half of that penalty as well. So if he can, in the remainder of this particular lap, lose that rest of it in the braking zones coming out of the acceleration at 6.5, so he's lost about 7/10 of a second of it. He could still stay in the qualification spots if he's intelligent about doing this and getting rid of that penalty. If he goes over the line with that penalty, he will drop out of qualification spots.
He's the one person who has fallen afoul massively of Ascari. There were 2 trends with Monza during the 2018 season. Incidents at turn 1 and people picking up penalties at Ascari. I am surprised that they've been as well behaved as they have been, honestly, all 3 of the heats so far. But when you go wide at Ascari, it bites hard, and Ortega may very well at the end of this race find that it bites so much so that he's going to fall outside of the top 5. We'll still find out how that's going to turn out, but let's look up to the front as well with Hizal. Zarka put up a mean fight, was putting him under pressure for so many laps, but he's pulled out 3 seconds. Lightning has well and truly struck for a second time at last.
So Zarka 3 back, Ortega 3 back from that. We really want to see what Ortega's doing. There he is, 5.9, so he's rubbed a little bit off. He needs to rub this off before the end of the race. He's only got 1 corner left. He needs to get out that throttle and get rid of that penalty. If it's added on, he will lose a qualification spot. So Ortega needs to switch on this brain. He loses 0.2 of a second in the Parabolica. Now he's going to, if he doesn't get on the throttle, he's out. Hizal takes the victory. 3.7 seconds ahead of Zarka. Ortega in 3rd.
Here he goes.
But he gets on the brakes now.
Oh, he's going to do it, surely.
Oh,
he's done it.
He has done it.
Oh.
Well done, Ortega.
That is the classic GT strategy. That is trying to go bit by bit.
That is...
Over Zarka by the end, but Zarka really did put up a performance. Gustinelli in third position benefited from Ortega blending out the throttle in fourth, and Zar finished in fifth ahead of Matic. So Zar does go through from third on the grid. Matic missing out, as does Wisniewski in seventh position. Wisniewski was fourth at the start of that race. He's seventh now. And I'll tell you, Ivan Ortega started on, what was that, row 2, 3, 4? Row 4. That was a very, very spirited performance.
Absolutely. Obviously, he wouldn't have wanted the Ascari penalty for sure, but he served it well. He not only ate into it during the race, but he knew that he could pull out enough of a gap to serve it near the end. It was close, but it worked. I feel sorry for Matic, honestly, just falling out there at the end. He must have picked up a penalty himself. And what of Nikodem Wisniewski? Like, I don't know what his fate is going to be. Any day of the week, usually, I would say he's outside of the top 5. I guess he's going to be picked up by the mentor, but... And
there he is, you can see.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit frustrated. You can see him just behind one of our mentors on the left-hand side. There's a Brendan Hartley lookalike, just part of that conversation. And the boss of the Williams esports team just chatting to Wisniewski. Heat 4 then, the final heat, and some huge names in this one as well, including our very own Matt Gallagher.
Certainly. I'd actually argue, though, that this is the best heat if you are a wildcard driver or one of these slower drivers to try and move through, because the big name here is Mr. Patrick Blažan, who is on pole position. The Hungarian goes by Fuvaros online. Again, another Team Redline driver. I'm expecting him to fly away with this one. Honestly, anybody's getting past that.
Yep, Patrick Blažan then on pole position, so in the red GTR. They're using the GT3 machines. And then alongside him on the front row of the grid, the only Finn, Kimmo Kaisala, and then Samit Oshanin in third position from Turkey/Germany. Jorge Ibaj in fourth position. Not many wildcards in this. Then Stefan Nussenbauer from Austria. Guillaume Béguet from France in sixth position. Matt Gallagher from WTF1/UK in seventh spot. Great to have Matt. He's got a good chance of qualifying as well. Hansen in P8, Kenny Hansen. And then Martinez in ninth position. Victor Martinez from Spain. Bolte in 10th position. And just at the back of the field, Xavi Puig, as he's known, but it's Puig del Veo. He was another of the wildcards. And Presa Francisco lines up P12.
No bias, I'm interested to see how Gallagher does, honestly. I feel like he's got a really good chance to progress through to the semis. Blažan, this guy is impervious on a bad day. So I'm going to very much enjoy watching him drive.
And he's in British Racing Green
Of course
well.
he is.
Fantastic.
What are the chances?
And that is completely
lucky number 7 as well.
Yeah, let's see how it goes then. The race is beginning. And we head down in slipstream formation down to the chicane. The very last race here in Monza. The last time we'll see these machines driven flat out, because the next races have tyre wear as one of the modifiers. And they also have the fearsome Bathurst track to deal with. But firstly, who is going to get there? Kaisala into second position round Oshan.
Oh.
Oshan's been bullied out the way, and he's spun round and he's fallen to the back of the field there. There was contact, but I think the incident started with him on the curb on his own. Gallagher there up to fifth position, so he has benefited from that. Blažan leads, Kaisala in second, Ibas in third, Nussenbauer in fourth, and Gallagher in fifth position. Battle outside the qualifying positions. Kenny Hansen going up the inside of Béguet, but can't make it stick.
Yeah, it got very, very tight indeed. Blažan didn't have the best exit either, and it was just a domino Constantina effect of cars thinking, oh no, where can I go? And unfortunately for Osha's it was just too little of a space for him to maneuver. Spun round again. Race control will be looking at that to see if someone did get a devious little touch in there. But the German relegated all the way back down to P12, 5.5 seconds off the rest of the field now. He's got a long day ahead of him if he wants to try and recover this in 5 laps.
If you're watching on the WTF1 channel, you'll know exactly who Matt Gallagher is, but if you're watching on all the other platforms and channels that we are broadcasting around, perhaps you won't know Matt Gallagher as the presenter of WTF1, also a very, very talented driver himself on normally F1 platforms, but turning his hand to GT Sport and doing a very, very good job for the moment. He just dropped off the back of Nissan going into the Parabolica. Thought he was going to have more of a slipstream there. Problem is, he's providing a slipstream to the Frenchman Guillaume Béguet behind and Kenny Hansen as part of that battle. Gallagher is under pressure coming towards the line here.
So you can already see just how much slipstream. And what Gallagher's unfortunately made a slight mistake in not trying to follow Nussbaumer directly ahead of him. And he's going to have the defensive line into turn 1 at least. I don't think Béguet is going to try it. No, around the outside is very difficult. But trying around the outside is Nussbaumer on E-bars. This is actually going to allow Gallagher to get dragged back into the battle for the podium. Blajan, Heisler, they've checked out. They've gone. They're saying we'll take P1 and P2. Thank you very much. The battle for P3 still very much on though. Nussbaumer now in the slipstream looking on the outside of the Della Rosier chicane. Oh, look at Gallagher looking on the inside. Oh, cheeky boy indeed.
He had to get on the anchors early there because Nussbaumer chopped his nose off and he's got a penalty for skipping over the chicane. He must have just done it. He's going to have to wear that 1.3 off. He does it in the first braking zone a little bit. I think it's actually just going to disappear where he's just a little bit earlier on the brakes than normal. He's still very much attached to the battle ahead with Nussbaumer and Ibars battling it out. And from a 2-second gap, there's absolutely nothing now between these four. And anybody making a mistake, Kenny Hansen's dropped back into the clutches of Bolte in 8th position. So 2 distinct battles here, 3rd to 6th, and then 8th to 12th, or 8th to 11th, because Oshan's right at the back.
Gallagher just played a masterstroke there because of the slipstream. We've talked about it all day so far. If you're in the slipstream, you have to brake earlier naturally because the braking zone is going to be longer for you. Gallagher played that perfectly because he had the slipstream of Nussbaumer ahead and he's worked off all of his penalty already. It's as if nothing happened.
And he's managed to hold that slipstream all the way down into Parabolica. Nussbaumer just carrying a bit more apex speed. He's obviously struggling. What was that? Oh, is that just a bit of a massive oversteer moment there? The car just broke away into the barrier and Gallagher is out of the top 6 now. He's going to plummet to the back.
To get caught in the Astro, yep, onto the curbing, and that's... He was running out wide, and that is the risk that you run, unfortunately. And Gallagher, it was a spirited first couple of laps, but down in P10 now, I think that might be his top 5 chances over.
Now, they do have traction control. They have the option for traction control in these cars, but most of the drivers have it turned to 0. Some I saw yesterday, Ben Perrin for 1, had it on 2. It does help a lot, but it's quite an intrusive system as it is on a GT3 car, and as soon as you get the car sideways, it cuts in and slows you massively. So most of them try to drive with it off. Obviously, Matt Gallagher being one of them, and it's bitten him. But he is now trying to progress back up through the field, trying to find a way past Victor Martinez here. Victor Martinez incredibly defensive on the inside of Lesmo, forcing Matt to go around the outside. Not going to happen there. Was that a touch from behind? Perhaps it was. No, he's not close enough. He's really, unless something crazy happens ahead of him, Matt just is out of touch now to qualify, but it was a great and entertaining first couple of laps. Now, Nussbaumer is under pressure from Guillaume Béguet, who was out of the top 5, has been gifted that top 5 position, and now is looking nice and fast. Kenny Hansen in 6th position, I noticed, has got a penalty as well. Ooh, 7. That's huge, and again, that must be from the Ascari chicane. If you run a bit deep, it does seem to penalise you massively, and it's going to be fascinating to see how he gets rid of that massive chunk. So Kenny Hansen also has a penalty for track limits.
I was going to say it was looking good for Kenny Hansen until I noticed that he does have he's a little bit far behind. We're going to have to see how this one plays out. Ibars, though, I'm presuming he must have... No, Kenny Hansen does not have a penalty, so I'm guessing that I'm presuming that Ebar's picked that up on the exit of Ascari. That's the only corner where I know a penalty to be that big for crossing track limits. The Danish driver, he needs to pick up the pace though, because he's continually falling off this top 5. And as we've seen in the last race, 7.5 seconds. Okay, you can look at it on the timing screen to say, oh well, you know, you're gonna finish down here, but it's not that simple.
No, exactly.
There's so many different speed differentials that you've got to consider as well. It's not like Ebar's is just gonna stop and then use up all his penalty. He is going to be moving as well. Looking to move his way up the order, though, is Begay. Like you said, he's been gifted that P5 now. But again, he's a racing driver. Okay, he could just qualify here, but he wants that P4, really.
Yeah, and starting right at the back of the field, starting down in 10th position for a semi-final around Bathurst. That'll give you a lot of work to do, and you don't want to have to work, especially with the tyre modifier coming in at 25 times.
It's big.
It's huge, and it's going to be tricky to keep those tyres alive throughout the full 5 laps around Bathurst, but still got to finish this one. Begay's not under pressure from anybody at the moment. 3 seconds the gap between him and Hansen, so he could stay there. But as we said, he's got the possibility here of moving up into 3rd spot, and wouldn't take much to get him into that position with just over a lap remaining of this final heat for the GT Sport. We've got results from the first 3. We know the semi-final 1 contenders. This is to establish who will be the second 6 in the semi-final 2. It's closing in, Nussbauer on Ibars. Ibars has lost about a second of that penalty. He needs to lose a lot more in one final lap. He's certainly going to plummet behind Nussbauer and probably Begay, but I think he might still qualify.
You've got to give credit to the men up top as well, Blancpain and Keisler, who've not just checked. I mean, I did say it's going to be a pleasure watching Blancpain driving. 4.5 seconds clear. Nussbauer, he wants to get this done though before the penalty is even served. And Ibars, he doesn't put up much of a fight. You know why? Because Nussbauer's just gone a little bit deep, and it's allowed Ibars actually to serve a bit of his penalty as well. So it worked out nicely. Looks like Nussbauer's going to keep the position for now, though, Ben. Ibars, he doesn't really have to worry about the Austrian. He needs to worry not just about Begay, but also Hansen behind, who's closed in that gap ever so slightly to 2.8 seconds.
In the slipstream again, still fighting even with that 5-second penalty looming over Ibars. He's trying to get around the outside.
Why?
He's going to get even more of a penalty if he skips the track. Thankfully, he doesn't. He loses a bit more of that penalty because he's slow on apex. Begay is sitting behind him, and exactly, if he drops out of the top 5 here, the mentors will be asking, why? Okay, why are you fighting so hard? 4 seconds now. So every time he goes into a braking zone, every time he goes to an apex, he's just a little bit slower than he would, or the computer would expect him to be, and that's why his penalty is dropping down. It's a fantastic system. I wish you could adopt it in real life racing, because it does make much more sense than some of the silly systems we have in real life racing.
Oh, it'll be fine.
Look, 2.9 seconds, it's almost all gone. He could even stay in 4th position. Begay will be very frustrated if he does so. That's a little bit deep, a little bit wide. Is that going to be more penalty added? He's quite late where you run wide, and where that tarmac is, I think, is an okay zone, as it were. Here comes Bazin, though. Patrick Bazin, favourite perhaps to win the whole thing. Every single one of our pole position guys have taken victory. Bazin makes it 4 out of 4. Keisler in 2nd position. Here's the battle for 3rd. Ibars off the throttle to serve the rest of his penalty, and he will finish in 5th position. Nussbauer 3rd, Begay 4th, Ibars in 5th.
Then that is the risk.
So there we go, highlights of the 4th heat here for the Nissan GT Sport Cup. And we've got to give a pat on the back to Matty G. He did a very good first couple of laps before what we would describe in real life racing as a billy spin.
A billy spin indeed.
He's going to have some serious stick online for that.
But you know what? He also fought hard to... I mean, to be fair, he avoided the starting incident through turn 1 and 2. And I think it's an underrated skill, honestly. So often you'll see people just going, oh, there's an incident ahead of me. Let's just drive on anyway and see what happens. But he was calm and he made his way around it. So much so that he benefited, of course, in a high-pressure situation like that. I almost was expecting him. He was looking a little bit unsure of himself, but a very great effort. And what we've learned from these 4 heats then, Ben, is pretty simple. Starting on the front row is pretty okay. The guys who started 1-2 finished 1-2.
So the results then, Blancpain, Keisler, Nussbauer, Begay and Ibas have qualified, the top 5. Kenny Hansen missing out in 6th, Bolte in 7th, Martinez in 8th, Matt Gallagher ended up in P9 and Francisco in P10. And you can see just there, Ricardo Sanchez and Lucas Ordóñez. Lucas with only one arm functioning at the moment. Sadly broke his collarbone mountain biking, I think only last week. There he is. So he's not racing here. His place has been taken by Jan Mardenborough in the real life finale of the Blancpain GT Endurance Series. But just chatting with Gareth from Nissan and Danny from Sony down there, and there is Matty getting himself ready to find out who the choices are, the mentors' choices from Lucas Ordóñez. An opportunity for people who have not qualified in the top 5 to have another chance and get through into the semi-finals. So we'll find out in a moment who Lucas will choose. We haven't really mentioned who's in his team, so I really have no idea who he might choose looking at the people in his teams.
Well, just picking out names in general who impressed me, regardless of team, I thought Bader was underwhelming, but we know that he's a race winner elsewhere. Adam Chick looked solid. I thought that, of course, Montron Chick as well. Of course, he was relegated to the back of field after a very unlucky incident. Those were heats 1 and 2 looking to go through to semi-final 1.
And guess what? They're all Ricardo's drivers.
Are they really?
So
well,
Lucas...
he's got an interesting choice on his hand, doesn't he? In heat 3, Wisniewski, again, underwhelming. Could he potentially do more? I thought Matic was unlucky to lose out on the podium. Heat 4 there. Might you want to take a little risk on Gallagher? And what of Osashin as well, who was caught out there at the beginning in turn 1? He qualified P3, so clearly the pace is there. Similar situation to Wisniewski. Seemed like it was caused by himself more than anything. There was no penalty given to another car because of that incident. So, again, I feel sorry for Ricardo with the amount of drivers that he's got to choose from.
Yeah, no, just going through the list of the people you've mentioned, they are all invariably Ricardo's drivers. Nils Matic is Lucas's driver.
Yeah.
Matty Gallagher is Lucas's driver. So even though Matty's going to be doing our presentation down there, he may be chosen, which should be quite an interesting one. I think Lucas is going to have to go a bit left field to choose some of the drivers in his lineup. He does also have Jose Al-Qaeda, who was a very strong contender in Heat 2.
Solid. Yeah.
But he eventually dropped out as well of the top 5 positions. So anyway, in a few moments' time, once we're all ready, we will find out. Everyone has vacated the tent because it's blooming hot down there. But Matty Gallagher has Ricardo Sanchez and Lucas Ordóñez for the mentor's choice.
Thanks, guys. Well, I'm here with Team Lucas and Team Ricardo. Guys, I'm here to find out your picks, your choices for the mentor picks. Let's start with you, Lucas. Who have you chosen and why?
Well, it was really, really tough to make a choice. The battles were incredible in the 4 heats. I have to say, I could look at a few of the competitors who were fighting for the top 5, and at the end I will get Al-Qaeda from Heat 2 because he was really on the top 5, but then he was taking so many risks, overtaking on the outside to other competitors. So at the end I think he deserved to be there. Al-Qaeda and then Gallagher, the British driver.
That's me.
It's you, really?
Yeah, that's me. Well, that's a surprise. Thanks.
Your interview.
No, genuinely, that is me. Okay, brilliant. Well, good to know.
So
Why did you choose me?
So Gallagher, I choose you because you showed good pace. You made a mistake on the parabolic power, but this is incredible. You show good pace, decent, driving with other competitors. So I think you deserve to be there.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I thought it was my last race, but apparently not. And Ricardo, who were your two choices?
I don't know the names. Can I?
Yes, you can get them up whilst that's happening. Wow. Okay, brilliant. Got to do Bathurst now. That's going to be fun. Ricardo's getting the two names. So let's go back to you, Lucas. So you chose Al-Qaid. What was it about him in particular that stuck out in Heat 2?
Well, I have to say there was so many competitors out there who deserve to be there, but at the end I could see the overtaking quality of this guy Al-Qaeda, and I think he deserves it because you made beautiful racing, overtaking on the outside a few times, and then in the last lap he had he went wide on turn 1 and missed the top 5. So.
And was there anyone that just narrowly missed out for you that maybe if you had 3 or 4 picks, you could have chosen them?
Yeah, sure. I have a few ones I prefer not to mention now because it will be more painful for them to not be qualified, but for sure there's many who deserve to be there, but at the end this is a competition and that's it. That's racing, as we say.
Perfect. Right, Ricardo, you ready? Can I have your 2 picks and why, please?
I would have saved you as well.
Stop it, guys.
Lucas, and it's like, what? Yeah. But this is racing. Next one, don't do it. I will save Samet. He was P3. He qualified P3, and on the start he got just taken out. And it wasn't fair. He was pretty quick, and then he catch the pack after he lost, I think, 15 seconds. He was able to catch the pack. He finished P8 at the end, so he deserves to be there. It wasn't his fault to be taken out, and he deserves a second chance. And the other one is Samet Osamaki, and the other one is, it's a weird name.
Technical difficulties. Okay, that's fine.
Bader. He qualified P4. It's same case. He got taken out, and he got the pace to win. He made some moves on the outside before, really nice overtakes. So he has the guts of the racing lines to do the proper overtakes, and he deserves another chance as well.
Perfect. There's your 4 picks. I'm apparently one of them. I've driven Bathurst about 10 times, so this is going to be really fun. I'm going to finish last. Back to you in the studio.
How funny was that?
Matty Gallagher's through. Good
Isn't
old
he
Matty.
just?
They'll keep a lot of viewers on WTF1.
I tell you what, I'm delighted for him for a start. I think they are solid choices. There are some names dropping out though. Nikodem Wisniewski, not selected. Montrosik, who we thought might have an outside chance of being in there, not selected. Adam Schick, overlooked. Those are the biggest names, I would say. But honestly, I think that's just added a little extra spice. And for Al-Qaeda as well, I think that's such faith put in him, despite his little wobbles. But that's going to give him a huge boost of confidence that he's been selected now as well. I think they all thoroughly deserve their chances. And ultimately, since this is a knockout tournament as such, we did have to lose some names at some point.
Yeah, Lucas, in terms of the teams, we didn't really focus too much on the stream with the team names, but Lucas did have a lot of qualifiers. He had a lot of people who went through already, and so his choice was kind of made a little bit harder. Ricardo had a lot of big names that you might know, big names that potentially Ricardo would know, but of course, as a GT Academy winner, and Lucas also a GT Academy winner, but they are the names, if you're really quick, you could have seen
flashing
them. They're being judged simply on their performance in that particular heat, not in terms of the legendary status that they have.
Exactly.
Interesting. I'm interested that he picked Ben Bader, because for me, Bader, whilst he's a well-known name, whilst he's incredibly fast, didn't show pace in that race, really. He did just go backwards.
That was the exception to the rule today, I think. That was a decision where, because it was pretty much between himself and Wisniewski, I would say. He has that experience from last week of being a race winner, and I do think that he was caught out more than anything. Remember, he was in that 3-way battle where he was just sort of reeled back in slowly and slowly to the point where when you're fighting two cars, both of which are saying, we want to overtake this dude, you're ultimately, unless you are an amazing driver and able to completely fend off everyone with fantastical defensive moves, you are going to be the one that's bullied down the order more often than not. So again, it's a similar situation to Al-Qaeda, I think, actually, where faith has been placed in him saying, listen, I know what you can do. You need to bring it to the table in the semi-finals. And boy, does he need to bring it to the table, because Bathurst is not a circuit for the not confident of drivers out there. Plus, on top of that as well, we have our first modifier, tyre wear, times 25 the normal rate. Times 25. It doesn't matter that it's 5 laps around Bathurst. Those tyres are going to be going down to the canvas by the end of the race. So those tyre conservers out there, Ben, they're going to be having a great time. Otherwise, we're going to be seeing a lot of slipping and sliding.
Well, looking forward to showing you the Bathurst track. If you don't know the Bathurst track, it has a huge section called the mountain section, which is just one long snaking section of turns going up and down. Yesterday I had a go on the circuit in a GT3 car, and it's incredible how the undulations put different loads on the car. So you think you've got grip, you go over a hill, you don't have any grip. And that's where the tyre wear situation is particularly tricky, because that's where you lose the rear end of the car. That's where you slide. If I was these guys, I think I'd be knocking that track's control up a little bit to try and limit the slide and therefore protect those tyres a little bit. Because by the end of 5 laps, it's about a 2-minute 10 lap, so it's going to be at least 10-minute race. By the end of the race, there will be no tyre left. Now, you have the ability to pit in the GT Sport.
You do.
And is there anything gained in doing a pit stop and doing 2 sets of tyres?
The only reason people will be pitting in this race is if they absolutely cannot finish the race on the tyres that they start with. Generally, the way it goes is you stick to conservatism, you try and do as little pit stops as possible so that you gain as much time on your rivals. And okay, that's a possibility in the final, in the grand final when we go to Fuji. But in this particular situation, when there's only 5 laps around Bathurst, again, I'm sorry. I'm a southerner, well and truly in that situation. But yeah, you can't afford to do it unless there is no other option. You're going to be finding yourself right at the back of the field otherwise.
Yeah, so Bathurst, a massive challenge. When the final will be held on the Fuji track, it will include fuel consumption, therefore a pit stop. So an extra challenge for the top 12 that do go through. As we said before, just a reset in terms of the format. 5 will go through from semi-final 1, 5 will go through from semi-final 2, and there'll be 1 mentor choice each to join them at the back of the field for that final. You are watching the Nissan GT Sport Cup. We are in Barcelona, just outside the paddock for the Blancpain GT Endurance Series finale. And it's a boiling hot day outside. It's a boiling hot day inside in the simulator area. There is plenty of hot air down there and lots of pressure. This is all Nissan cars. These are the best drivers from GT Sport. And within GT Sport, you have to choose your brand, don't you? So yes. If you don't have the game, or you're watching on channels you're not so aware of how it works, when you log onto the game initially and you develop your profile, you choose a brand to race for. And whilst you're racing for that, manufacturers can, if they want to, proper manufacturers monitor the process. And Nissan, with the relationship they have with GT Sport and Gran Turismo platform, have been monitoring exactly what the Nissan drivers have been doing. These are the very best.
They very much are, and certainly the guys who've associated themselves with Nissan, the guys that we've been watching for this entire broadcast, they've had a very good time of things. They've had a recent win pickup in the Manufacturers Series at a World Tour event just last week. And there was also a very popular win back in 2015, not in the virtual world, but in the real world. And I believe that we now have some lovely highlights from the Bathurst 12 hours. Oh, no,
that would be lovely.
That would be lovely. Yeah. Oh, of course. Right, yeah. So that is... Actually, to be fair as well, it had GT Academy winners in the car as well. Yep. So it was a very important event for demonstrating, there we go, got my words out, for demonstrating hey, these virtual guys can do it as well as the real guys.
Yeah, and that's been the process over the last 10 years for the GT Academy. This is a new angle. This is a new direction in terms of Nissan support of GT Sport. The relationship is there. The real Nissan that's starting P10 on the grid here in the Blancpain Endurance Series, sponsored by PlayStation, and the association with Sony, still very, very strong. But this is a different direction. This is about celebrating esports, sim racing, and the talents that these drivers have on this particular platform, not necessarily taking them and trying to develop them into racing drivers that we've seen with Nan Mardenborough, with Lucas Ordóñez, with Ricardo Sanchez, and the guys down there. So a new approach, something that really wouldn't have worked 10 years ago, but with so much emphasis now on sim racing, on esports, and it being really recognised as a pro category. Formula One teams not just choosing 3 drivers for their Formula One Esports Championship, but choosing drivers across the board for all different championships. Williams are here and supported. We are celebrating esports and the best in Gran Turismo sport.
Oh, very much so. I mean, e-racing in general is one of the most fascinating niche categories of esports I think you can look into. It's been a pleasure being part of the scene for 6 years now myself, where honestly it's one of the longest serving esports, 20 plus years now at this point, but it's only recently where people have picked up and thought, hold on, wait a second, it's really rather good. Maybe we should do more with it. And these new generation of drivers, they follow a similar path to myself on the commentary side in many ways, where previously you'd be looking to start in sim racing and saying, I want to be a real racing driver, or I want to be a real life racing commentator. And yet here we all are now, people looking to be the best e-racing drivers. In my case, I'm now an e-racing esport commentator. It is that big of an industry that we can afford to do this now, and it's wonderful. It's a whole new element to the racing scene, to the sports scene in general. I certainly hope that it continues to grow as much as it has been in the last few years. You never really know with entertainment and how it goes, but just looking at these sorts of settings, LAN settings, we did not have this sort of thing 10, 15 years ago. We did not have this sort of pressure cooker, as it very much is today on a very hot day, where you've got the guys that you're fighting against next to you. I've been to LAN events where there have been some arguments flaring up, where punches may have been thrown, and obviously we don't want to see any punches thrown, but it's exciting, it's part of the drama.
So we're just waiting on a driver. We've got 11 drivers in their pods, but I can just see what looks to be pod 9 is empty. If we were really clever, we'd work out who that was. But I don't have a grid for the semi-final, so got no idea. But there's a lot of looking outside into the NISMO area. Beautiful place to look, by the way, because there's NISMOs and Nissans of all shapes and sizes out there. You might have heard them a little bit earlier, and they're certainly great to see. But there is one seat missing. Miguel Feischke just standing there as one of our adjudicators, also a GT Sport, GT Academy finalist. And a quick look at the Thrustmaster wheel that they're using. Also support from Sparco. There are the bespoke Sparco gloves made specifically for gaming. They were released, I think, memory serves, they were released November last year.
That sounds about
around,
right.
Around the competition that we were working on previously. They are breathable, they obviously aren't fireproof, and they are the chosen equipment for many a sim racer now. The play seats, as you said, those rigs look fantastic, don't they?
They're so comfortable, honestly. And comfort is a massive thing in these LAN events, of course. It's one thing to say, oh, well, you know, you've got a steering wheel, you've got your pedals, off you go. But those drivers, especially the ones progressing through to the semis, through to the grand finals, they're going to be sitting down for a long, long time. And so the amount of times that I've heard of people doing in their backs by having poor posture or sitting in a chair that's not fit for purpose, it's not great. It shouldn't happen as much as it does. And so big thank you to the folks over at Playseat and to Thrustmaster and to Sparco for making our drivers feel at home in their environment as possible.
We were talking actually a little bit earlier on about physicality with Matty Gallagher at the start of the show. You do see some drivers really inefficiently postured in sims. I remember Isaac Price, for instance, someone who worked really hard on making himself relax into the seat, because as soon as you're tensed, you're using more energy than you need to in your body as a tense, rather than being relaxed and using all the energy to do what it needs to do. And so it is something that should be worked on for professional esports, and for probably half of this field, you would call them professional drivers in esports, in GT Sport, and various sim racing platforms. So they will have guidance from teams like Williams Esports. You can see on the left-hand side there, Nikodem Wisniewski, no longer playing a part, but part of the Williams Esport team that was made for the F1 Esports competition, but has quickly developed into something that's far, far more. Right then, we are on pole position. Oh, we've missed the pole position. Luke Ackermann is P2. Ferreira is P3. So P1 is Garnier. Sansonatus in P4 for France, P5 Matis Vech for Poland, and then Manuel Rijon in 6th position. He was one of our wildcard riders, I think. Rockamora was a wildcard as well in P7. Again, we're using the GT3. There is Coco Lopez in 8th position. Expect him to make progress up through the field. Nick Ertz in 9th, the only Belgian qualifying into this semi-final one. Rejon in 10th spot for Spain. Still plenty of Spanish contingent in there. You'd expect that from 16 entries. There is Ben Bader, the wildcard driver, and Matt Gallagher. Matty G is 10th position in semi-final one. Last, but he can make progress through this. He did say to us earlier, it's Bathurst. It's not a Formula 1 track. I don't know where it goes. Not a great thing to do when approaching a race into Bathurst, because it is a fearsome circuit. If you don't know the circuit, just take a look, number one, at how narrow it is in these GT3 cars. There's probably space for just two side by side. Two very distinct sections. This lower section of Bathurst, very fast, 90-degree turns, but long straights. The mountain section at the second half is concrete lined, no room for error, really no passing either. Sansonatus, P4. Oh, already Leon Ackermann from the front row of the grid running wide at turn 1. What on earth is he doing that for? And losing plenty of places. Lopez and Rockamora going past him side by side, but just look how narrow this circuit is. It is such a challenge, and remember we've got tyre wear as well, which is going to play a factor come the end of the race.
Would you believe that this is one of the most popular overtaking opportunities? This is not an overtaking track by any stretch of the imagination, Bathurst. It's a survivalist's heaven. If you find consistency around this circuit, you are going to find success, and I believe we got confirmation through that Matty Gallagher transferred over from what was going to be the second semi-final. He's now filling in as that 12th driver in the first semi-final, so hopefully we're going to find Alcade, and he's going to be in semi-final number 2. So he's going to be at the back of the grid, Gallagher. Not had the best of starts, so already 1.8 seconds off the pace, but again, not had too much practice around this track and clouting the wall there, unfortunately. We wish you the best of luck, Matty. But back up to the front, it's been a brilliant start from Garnier, and in fact, it's a French 1-3 as well. Sansonatus been doing very well as well. But what about Ackermann? He had such a quiet race in Heat 1, completely untroubled at the start of the field. He has fallen well down the order now. In fact, he's outside the top 5.
So we've just gone through that mountain section. It's incredibly narrow. It's very, very undulating, and it's concrete lined. And then we come down to the Conrod Straight, a huge, huge, huge long straight where these cars hit maximum velocity, and then they kink right here, flat out, jump on the brakes into the chase, which is around second, third gear left. Accelerating zone through the right. Again, it's very, very narrow. And into Murray's Corner, which is the final corner of the lap. It's an incredible circuit. If you are one of those people that like visiting tracks around the world, this is the place to go. I think this weekend, actually, is the Bathurst, or maybe next weekend's the Bathurst 1,000 mile race.
Lots of numbers.
Yes. Because they do in the Aussie V8 series, they have the enduro races where they have 2 drivers, and they have the sprint races where they have 1. They've had Sandown, and now they've got this Bathurst 1000. It's an amazing place. Obviously, the Aussies fill it with fantastic atmosphere as well, and it is such a challenge to have a clean race. Battle for 5th position there, I saw. Yes, Lopez up ahead of Vetch going into Griffin Bend, so that's worked out for Lopez. He's put himself into the qualifying positions. Ackermann is still outside of it.
Well, we've got to have a little chat, Ben, about Rincon and Lopez, because they started respectively P6 and P8 Rincon has moved his way up to 3rd, Lopez into the top 5. They've had an outstanding start and have made their way through the field with aplomb. And we've also got to look at the other side of the bracket coming into this. Garnier and Ferreira, they were 1-2 at the end of Heat 2, so really flying the flag for their Heat strong. Sansonatus, unfortunately, off the podium, but again, all he needs to do is finish in the top 5 as Vike really showing just how dangerous this mountain section is. One mistake and you are going to be out.
Yeah, here we are on board. I just was about to say I'd love to be on board through this amazing section of turns. You're constantly left, right. You can kind of place the car wherever you want as long as you get down cleanly, because really nobody's going to try and overtake you through there unless they want to have an accident. Ackerman is going to put Vex under pressure here. Big slipstream as we've seen from the Monza races, and this down the Conrod Straight is the place for the slipstream. He's put himself on the outside line because the track goes right, and then the braking zone is left, and Ackerman has done that beautifully as Rockamora behind and Bader are side by side. Bader's moved up to P8. Can he get himself into the top 5? I think he would be lucky to do so starting down there, but it's all about that tyre wear come the end of the race. Look, at the top of the screen, times 25 on tyre wear. Bader holds on to 8th.
Yeah, so the danger men we are looking at is very much as Vike goes wide there and Murray's, and that might allow Bader a free position through. In fact, Rockamora moves through as well, so the Polish driver dropping 2 positions. We are going to get a little replay here as well. That was up ahead. Yeah, so Vike just completely missing the braking zone, going behind Ackerman there in P6. It's cost him dearly. For Bader and Ackerman, they are our danger men outside of the top 5 now. Ackerman directly behind Lopez, although Bader still has Rockamora for company as they head up into the mountain section. Bader on the inside, little bit of contact there as well, and the Hungarian's going to hold on for now as Ackerman's past Lopez, I notice, up in P5. So Koke Lopez, who was looking comfortable, has already dropped a position to the Dutchman. He had a quiet race 1, but he's showing that he knows how to overtake, Ben.
Well, yeah, if you put it on the wrong racing line up through this section, you do really struggle. And I think Lopez from P4 down to P6 in 2 turns had exactly that problem. He's now gathered it up, sorted himself out, so he sits in 6th, but he's outside the qualifying position. Look how tough this track is. That's the uphill section. This is the top of the mountain, and now we start to plunge down. Ackerman just needs to be sensible about this. He's not going to pass Sansonatus anywhere soon until he gets down the Conrod Straight and is able to pick up that slipstream. Sansonatus does look under pressure at the moment. Ackerman, we know he's got the pace. He started from the front. He made that silly error into turn 1, and he really should be in the top 5. He is now in the top 5. Sansonatus has had a good exit, though, through the Forest Elbow and looks to be able to pull away. Meanwhile, up front, Rincon passes Ferreira.
This is classic Manu Rodri. This is classic Manu Rodri. He's always been a middle of the ground qualifier. He's a racer at heart, though. And Rincon, his real name, is up there into P2. Who's that going wide? Sorry, Sansonatus.
Yeah, Sansonatus has gone wide into the chase. Ackerman and Lopez side by side now for P4 and 5.
Wow.
Because Sansonatus dropping 2 positions. He must have just gone a little bit deep into the chase there. Missed his braking point, did some grass cutting. It is still kicking off, though. Ackerman wants to get P4. He's going to go down the inside. Recha in the pits to change his tyres. I knew someone would do this, certainly outside of the top 6. It was a good risk to take, and he has pitted, but he's still in the pits. It's side by side. Ackerman has a 2-second penalty. He'll have to blend out the throttle. He should do that now if I was him. There's no point trying to challenge and go around the outside into Griffins.
No, I agree entirely. It was through the aptly named Hell Corner as well that he picked up that penalty, and that could be costly because Sansonatus is right behind.
And
lucky for him, Bader is also there. It is anybody's game as to who's going to pick up that final 5th position. Brilliant driving from Lopez, by the way, to avoid that incident. It's up the inside of that corner. Bader, are you mental? Around the outside contact, grinds against the wall. Is he going to get this completed? No, Sansonatus holds on for now. That was dogged stuff from the 2 of them.
He had to blend out of it. He could not go side by side. It's just not done around Bathurst. It was a silly thing to think about doing in the first place. I think he might actually be defending now because he's got Rockamora behind him, and it was a very strange line at the top of the hill there. Now plunging back down the hill. Again, no overtaking. This is the time where Ackerman should be taking that penalty. He's lost 1/10 of a second out of it, but you could easily just roll down this hill let gravity take you. He's got nobody to challenge him behind, although he would potentially lose the potential for Lopez providing the slipstream down the Conrod straight. No, Lopez is too far away anyway. So Garnier is checked out the front. Ricon is now in second. Ferreira in third. Lopez in fourth. Ackerman is in fifth position. Cincinnatus is outside in sixth spot with Bader right on his tail coming into the chase. Looking down the inside. Cincinnatus is very, very late on the brakes and he gets it stopped. That was a very, very brave move from the Frenchman, but it has compromised his speed going into Murray's, into the final turn. A great overtaking opportunity. Bader thinks against it.
There was an extra element that you missed there, Ben. It was Ackerman who was choosing to serve his penalty into that corner. Incredibly risky move, and it completely put off Cincinnatus. So the fact that he dealt with that and braking and defending is testament to how good a driver he is. But look at Bader throwing it up the inside of Hell's corner, and I think that might be just about done. Indeed it is. Great overtaking move there on the inside, although Cincinnatus might be able to reply back up the hill. We've got a replay just showing how far back Bader came. It was a little bit of slipstream, but he had all the work to do in the braking zone, chucked it up the inside. Bob is your uncle, and he's got the position with that as well.
Bob is my dad. Cincinnatus in seventh position. He's made a mistake somewhere, so he's dropped behind Bader quite significantly now. It's all going wrong for Cincinnatus, who understeers horribly as he goes up the hill. That is the tyre wear. And I think he is super, super struggling. That car doesn't look like it's running anywhere near the pace that it should be. And he's still, well, we're on the final lap now, so he's only got to nurse this car another minute or so, but he has dropped outside of the top positions. Remember, there is a mentor pick for each of our mentors going into the final, and Cincinnatus could be one. Lucas is his mentor.
And we've got to give a shout out once again to Rincon. P6 to P2 around Bathurst in 5 laps. That is an outstanding drive. And Bader as well. He was a mentor's choice. He started on the last row of the grid and he is P6. That is as good a drive as could be hoped for.
Yeah, and here's Coco Lopez. Remember, Coco, although we know him very, very well in the GT Sport scene, he had to qualify as a wild card. He had to buy an entrance ticket into the Blancpain Endurance Series final here in Barcelona to get himself onto the sim to then qualify. He was #1 qualifier, but he did not automatically qualify because he doesn't normally drive for Nissan, but he's doing very, very well. He's going to qualify through to the final, but the winner by 3.3 seconds, Garnier takes it for France, Rincon in second, Ferreira for Portugal in third position, Lopez is fourth, and Ackerman does get through in fifth ahead of Bader and Cincinnati, both missing out. So we haven't seen massive excitement at the very front of the field for the battles for the win.
No.
But we've seen some epic battles to qualify through. And I think it's all going to kick off once we get to Fuji in the final, where the only prize is to win.
It is going to be very much the best of the best in that scenario. And looking back on that race, Rincon and Lopez, again, I cannot praise them enough. They have done an outstanding job considering where they started to where they finished. Rincon's now going to start at worst, 4th on the grid in Fuji. That is a brilliant effort. On the flip side, you have Ackerman, who was right there at the top. He started on the front row. At best, he's going to start P10 in Fuji. So, okay, he had a great race to recover to P5, but it's a knockout tournament. You have to find your way back. Looking at the journey of Rincon past Ferreira. Again, Ferreira, we haven't really talked much about him, but he's having a brilliant event as well. I think Manuel is a very strong case for underdog to take the entire thing. As I said, he is a racer. He knows how to fight his way through the order. He'll only have, at worst, 3 cars ahead of him when it comes to Fuji. But I want to give a shout out to Beta as well. I feel that to start pretty much dead last and to come to just outside of the top 5, if he doesn't get picked up as a mentor's choice, and a reminder that there's only 1 per mentor now, so there's only 2 mentors choices going through to the final at Fuji. If he doesn't get selected, unless there's some absolutely amazing drives in our second semi-final, I'd be disappointed not to see him there, because I think he very much redeemed himself after the heats.
Yeah, Beda is Ricardo's mentor choice to go into this particular race, so it would be a second mentor progression. Yeah. Cincinnatus also missing out, started on row 2 of the grid, but just seemed to not click with that Bathurst track whatsoever, missing out on qualification into the final. He's Team Lucas, so if Lucas has a bit of faith in him, then perhaps he could be picked, and he was at this point outside the top positions, but this is, I think, where he made an error, and we went side by side with Beda. Yeah, a bit deep, a bit wide there, a bit of understeer, and then Beda thought he would try and run side by side with him. Just not a thing to do. Almost had the pass done then until he hit the wall, and then the track continues to go right, and he was on the wrong side. And
to be fair, actually, there was massive respect between those 2 drivers, because, again, we cannot emphasize enough how tight this track is. It's so... what's the right word? You don't really get a full idea of it by not driving the cars themselves and being on board with the cars. To go side by side for that length of time on the mountain ascension, brilliant driving from the pair of them. Of course, Beta coming off the best, and yeah, I think Cincinnatus just burned his tyres a little bit too quickly. Of course, you saw Rayhon being forced to pit in that race, and, well, the only person who finished behind him was Matty Gallagher, unfortunately, who had a bit of a sad time of things.
Yeah, we didn't show Matty, which is a bit of a shame, but he did struggle somewhat at the back of the field there. As I said, not a Formula 1 track, so a bit tricky. And we will soon get everybody into the pods for the second semi-final, which is looking pretty much ready. So all 12 pods are full. We've got... really, this is a big one, because we've got some of the big names in these semi-final, well, the heats 3 and 4. Mentor choices in this one, I think, as well. Sylvain Gauthier, the French journalist. So we've got English journalist in Matty Gallagher, French journalist in Sylvain Gauthier. A bit of a journalist battle there. Sylvain, as I said, came here to interview another French driver. Had no intention of actually racing himself, but thought he'd have a go and found himself qualifying. So let's run through the grid then. Hisal is on the pole in the red machine that he took to victory a few moments ago. Blancpain will start P2. That means his race was the slower of the races. Zarka was super fired up in his heat, so he starts 3. Kaisela in 4, the Finnish driver. And then Gustinelli, French, Hugo, in 5. Nussbauer, we saw plenty of action with him. The Austrian, he'll start in 6th. Ivan Ortega in 7, another of the wildcard Spaniards. Guillaume Berger, the Frenchman, in 8. And then Romain Sarr, another Frenchman, in 9. So the French are still holding on there. A very healthy esport nation. Jorge Ibar in 10th position. Jorge Alcaide is there, the wild card, in 11th spot and mentor's choice. Samet Oshan is the other mentor's choice in 12th. And Sylvain Gauthier in 13th. So he missed the first race, so he gets added in. So we've got 13 drivers, an unlucky 13. This will be interesting.
And even more interesting, I feel, is that we have a team red line front row. So many times have we seen Lightning versus Fuveros. So many times have we seen that there is no love lost despite their shared team, Ben. So this should be a fascinating fight to the finish. I think we might have our first fight for the win.
Look at that. Hungary 2 and 3 behind Hisal in the first position, and then Kaisela in 4th spot. Gustinelli for France, P5 at the moment. Everyone nice and clean to that first turn. It's a feature of GT Sport with these rolling starts that the first turn doesn't seem to be that intense because simply they're all at the same speed at the start of the race. But when we start getting into the braking zones and through the mountain section, it starts to kick off for sure. Looking at Kaisela in that white machine, aptly for a fin. Into the biggest first braking zone. Ivan Ortega moves up into 7th position ahead of Guillaume Beguet, who gets a big slide on.
Oh.
Ortega gets a double slide on. Tank slapper. Oh, Jorge Ibar's getting buried into the wall there by Saar. Beguet hits the wall again. So it's all kicking off outside the top 6. Everyone's still facing the right direction somehow.
Listen, I'm excited that Dancing on Ice is back on British TV as well, but that's taking it a little bit too far. I cannot believe that he managed to save a double tank slapper and not hit the wall. Brilliant car control, and he's been able to keep the position from it as well. But look at the two up front. Already Hizal and Blajan starting to fight away. Similar situation actually to last race though. Sharka looking punchy in these early stages, impressed with Kaisler as well. Gustinelli pretty much in a world of his own, not close enough to try and attack the fin ahead. A second and a half ahead of Nussbaumer behind.
Yeah, Nussbaumer must have had to back out of it as well, because it was Ortega, Beguet and Saar who had that little conflab going into the start of the mountain section, so they all had to get out of it. But there is a gap, quite a significant gap between 6th and 5th. And Ortega now putting Nussbaumer under pressure. That was an easy move, so must have been a poor exit for Nussbaumer onto the Conrod straight, and Nussbaumer blends into 7th position. But really, they need to focus on what's going on ahead. As Blajan has moved ahead of Sarka, Zarka's off. Zarka's off, so he's dropping down to 5th position. Let's see what happened.
Oh, completely missed the braking zone. Goodness me, it's like he forgot that the pedal was there. And he's kept his foot in. Has he kept P5 or is he falling down further? Just about keeps 5. Lucky boy. So often have we seen incidents there resulting in at least a spin. Although, not the best scenario. Ortega's been in fine overtaking form so far this race, so probably the worst person you could have come out ahead of.
Yeah, a couple of years ago that Conrod straight didn't have the chase in it, but it does now when you need to brake. Sarka then under pressure coming into the braking zone. I think he's going to lose that 5th position. Ivan Ortega looks to the inside. You've got to let him go. And a cheers downstairs is because we've finally got a Spaniard up into P5. A big slide on exit. That'll wear his tyres again. He's done that twice on 2 corners. A warning to Sylvain Gauthier at the rear of the field in P10 of 13, remember. Jordi Alqueda is in 13th position. Bad start for Romain Saar, who is in 12th spot. So he's gone backwards in this second semi-final. Ortega, though, having made that pass, kissing every barrier that's in sight, but seemingly, there's another kiss. Sometimes there's a kiss, more of a snog sometimes. Yeah. And gets to the top of the mountain. It's time to go back down and see if he can kiss some more barriers. Normally, this is the place where you do it because the momentum is pushing you down the hill. But he seems to be relatively clean there, a bit of an understeering moment, but keeps it out the barriers on the way down the hill. Interesting that Zarka has been so strong at the head of the field, but has no answer to Ortega at the moment. Big slide again. He's not going to have any tyres by the end of this.
I don't know what's getting me more steamy at the moment, the heat or his driving and car control. That is, once again, an outstanding save, but surely, if anyone in this field is going to be pitting, it's going to be him, and he might be suspect to losing that P5 once again to Sharku. Flies up the inside.
But Ortega's got the inside line, though. He stayed just about on the outside.
Well defended.
And a bit fierce, a bit muscly on the exit there. Pushes Zarka off, and Nussbaumer takes advantage. But he just kept the overlap, and that was sensible driving from Ortega. Whether race control will be a little bit furious with that depends on how angry they're feeling today. Perhaps how many beers they had last night as well. But I mean, if they haven't had lunch as well, that can also upset race control, especially if they're fresh.
It upsets me, honestly. Like, I'm not a happy boy when I'm hungry. But yeah, to be fair, I thought it was fair. Again, look at it from a different angle would probably be decent, but right now we need to focus on this battle between P6 and P7 because Sharka's going to be, he's been falling backwards this entire race, chucks it up the inside on the ascension once again, and he's back up into P6. Really nice, really smart move. We're already halfway through this race though, Ben. So much action. I wasn't expecting so many overtakes at Bathurst. And
Oh, that's massively understeery.
yeah, we're going to see another one now.
He's going to lose that position again. Nussbauer goes back round the outside. He just didn't quite hook it up, get on the line.
hello.
Oh, but Nussbauer has been forced wide. He's now in the
Lovely.
wall. And back round the outside goes Zarka. There wasn't any contact there either. That was simply just, I'm still here, dude. You can't turn in. And Nussbauer drops back down to 7th, but Zarka just didn't hook up the entrance to the mountain section at all. And you just see the car push, push, push. Oh, battle on for P3 here. Kaisela under pressure from Gusinelli.
Yeah, at this point, the TRL boys have checked out. I don't, honestly, as much as I say that there's no love lost between those two, they usually love to fight it out anyway. They find battling with each other extremely entertaining. We have to consider they need to qualify. And okay, you might gain an extra row on the other if you were to overtake them, but getting through is the priority. And they are well clear of these two now. Kaiser doing incredibly well to hold on to P3 actually, but he's got an experienced boy in Custanelli behind him, the Ascaro driver. Just watching brief, and I think he's just trying to sum up where his best chance at an overtake is, because certainly into the chase, that's the best opportunity, especially on lap 5, when there's not much chance to fight back. The only real opportunity is Murray's Corner, which we're going through now.
Kaisela wasn't very strong there. That was not a good exit out of Murray's, and he's inviting Gusinelli up the inside. Also early on the brakes, and there's a little bit of contact between them. Doesn't push him wide though, and Gusinelli was also on the brakes, but slightly later in the braking zones. Kaisela doesn't look happy, and remember, we've got tyre wear on, so that may well be in exit and through apex. He doesn't have the grip anymore, and Gusinelli has more. Defensive move from Kaisela going up into the mountain section, forcing Gusinelli to go to the outside. That will mean understeery, oversteery moment, and Gusinelli will have to gather himself up and try again later.
It's not just tyre wear, it's times 25 the normal rate. Again, these guys are already going to be close to the canvas here on lap 4 or 5, and you could see Gusinelli, he had the troublesome duo of problems that happen when you get tyre wear. Understeer, followed up by zero grip in the rear tyres. Good save. It means that battle for P3 though is pretty much done and dusted. Around this type of circuit, he's not going to be making up that time unless Kaisela makes a big mistake.
Only a second between Hisala and Blajan at the moment, but presumably Hishal is just biding his time and taking it easy towards the end of the race, not trying to push too hard. This is about conserving the tyres to the end of the race as well, and we've already seen the struggles that Gusinelli has with his car, and Kaisela for sure was also struggling, but not quite as dramatically. They're going to go through though. Ortega's going to go through as well in P5, the Spaniard. Zarka is not. He's outside of the cutoff, and he will need his mentor to put him through.
Which is actually interesting. Double check. Does Zarka have the same mentor as Bader?
Yes.
Oh boy, that is a choice.
So the Team Ricardo has got a big choice to make at the end of this one. Blancpain has closed in. Look, 0.7 of a second now, the gap. So on this, coming on to the last lap, so the last tour of the Bathurst circuit, and it's only 0.8 of a second between Hishal and Blancpain for the front row start for our final at Fuji. That's what they're going to be battling it out for. They're both qualified, but will Blancpain throw it down the inside to try and get pole position for that final race?
I don't think he has the pace. He made a little mistake there through turn 1, and it's allowed Hishal to just pull away ever so slightly. I tell you what, this is the lightning that I remember when I first started commentating on Gran Turismo in the first place. Seemingly no chance of a mistake for this guy. And at this circuit as well is particularly important because many would argue it was here in the Nations Cup where his inconsistent form began. He was fighting for a podium. He made a massive mistake on the exit of the chase, went into the wall. He didn't lose out too badly. He was still inside the top 10, but it was the first sign that lightning was beatable. Now he's back on it. Now he's back to his best.
We've got a battle on for 5th position again. Ortega's been reeled in by Zarka on this last lap, and Ortega very, very close, trying to make a move around the mountain section. Ortega kisses, smashes the barrier, and again invites Zarka up the inside. Remember, Zarka was inside that top 5 before a mistake at the chase, and again Ortega's not got any tyres at all, and Zarka surely is going to find a way through by the end of this lap. It's not going to be through here, it's not going to be through the next couple of corners, but there's a slipstream to be had down Conrod, and there's a big braking at the chase. And surely Zarka won't make the same mistake again. Huge understeer, but hopefully he's got a decent enough exit to get into the slipstream and head down towards the chase. We'll need to check in with our winners and our leaders over the start-finishing line, but this is crucial. One position will put him automatically through into the final, but at the moment Zarka is not going through the final. Puts himself on the right-hand side of the circuit. Ortega tries to stick it out on the left-hand side. Off the inside line for the next one. Contact, contact, contact. They're both off the track. Who's going to benefit from that? Is Nusabauer going to go through? Hisal will, Blancpain will, Kaisela will, Gusanelli will, and Nusabauer is going into fifth position. Zarka in sixth. And Ortega in seventh. We're going to see fireworks down there at the end of this race.
Wow.
The Austrian makes it into fifth position. Ortega misses out and Zarka misses out. Hopefully there's not too much anger down there. We know what Spaniards are like. Ivan Ortega got seriously bullied off the track. Wow, wow, wow. Well, there we go then. Hisal has qualified through on the front row of the grid. Blancpain will have to start on the second row of the grid. Kaisela, Gusanelli and Nusabauer in fifth position. Will be surprised to see himself in the final. Zarka and Ortega missing out. Ushanin, the wild card, didn't make too much progress, and the rest of the 13 runners in that race. Just a quick look then at that final passing move. Zarka in the slipstream, coming into the chase that initially goes right and then goes left. He chooses the right-hand side, allowing Ortega to have the inside line. Contact once, contact twice, and this is where Zarka was trying to take the apex, but there was a car already there.
That, to me, is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Ortega chose his line. He chose the inside line, as he's absolutely entitled to. And then it's down to Zarka just saying, well, I'm trying to overtake you here. And in the braking zone, he never seemed too comfortable. Banging, the side of Ortega's car, they were both inevitably going to go off. And I feel like if I was to blame anyone out of that, it would most likely be Zarka, but then again, they were fighting hard, and ultimately both of them losing out.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? In terms of that particular move, how much peripheral vision do you have as a sim driver if you've got a car in your rear third?
It depends on what camera angle you have, honestly. You could be on the front cam, you could be in cockpit, in which case you really don't have much peripheral vision. At the end of the day, though, you should know that it's a wide car, and there is going to be something on the inside, so it's better to be conservative and try and go fully around the outside than on the inside. Big choices, though, for the mentors to make, Ben, and I believe that we are just about set to go down to Matty G to find out those choices, actually.
Okay, the final mentor's choice with Team Lucas and Team Ricardo. We'll start with you, Lucas. Please don't choose me. Who's your final mentor's choice?
It was, again, really, really hard. 2 races, many good drivers, great battles, but at the end, I could see Cincinnati also fighting there fighting for the top 5, but he was not there. Then I could see in the second heat, Ibars, he was in good progression. But then Ortega lost the top 5 in the last lap, fighting against the top guys. So I have to go for Ortega because he was constantly in the top 5, and then in the last lap, due to that fight, he lost the top 5. So I go for Ortega. He's a very emotional guy. I could see very angry, missing the top 5, but I think because of his pace and his speed, being in the top 5, he deserves to be there.
Okay, so Ortega for Team Lucas. What about Team Ricardo? Ricardo, do you have the name this time?
Yes, I have saved Matt. I'm joking.
Please don't. I'm not even on your team. Right, Ricardo, tell me your final pick.
I have saved the same guy I saved in the previous round. It's called Bader, so he deserves to be there again. He started P12, finished P6. So unluckily, I think for the next race he will start again on the back, but he has shown a lot of potential, a lot of speed, no mistakes, good overtaking, clean driver, and good pace as well. I think his lap time was 2/10 off from P1, so we will see what happens in the final round, maybe an accident in front, and then he can win the thing.
Ortega and Bader. Fiji will be an interesting one. They haven't really done much around there, have they? Because it's a new track released.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new track. Maybe some people have tried in a different game, but yeah, it's amazing how quick they are. I was speaking to Lucas, how tense they are. Their feet is just like this. Their hands shaking, sweating like hell. But this was us a couple of years ago, 10 and 4 years ago, so we will see.
Perfect. Let's look to the final. Back to you in the studio.
Cheers, Matty. Very good to hear from Ricardo and Lucas. Ricardo had a really difficult choice there between Ben Bader and Zarka. 2 Hungarians. Zarka getting in the fisticuffs in that second semi-final. Bader missing out, but also having... for me, he hasn't shown the pace that perhaps Zarka has. But obviously, Ricardo feeling that he's the right choice for him.
I'm going to pick up on Ricardo's point in that he wasn't helped by race 1. And I agree with you. In race 1, he was slightly underwhelming. You know yourself how difficult it is to overtake around Bathurst. Mm-hmm. To the audience, it's very difficult to overtake around Bathurst. He got to P6 from the back of the grid.
Yeah.
He's going to be starting at the back of the grid again, but he's already shown around one of the most difficult circuits to overtake, he can do it. Now, Fuji, there are plenty more opportunities to overtake. I'm thinking turn 1, I'm thinking turn 3, I'm thinking further up the line in turn 8 as well. If he has that sort of overtaking form, then maybe he can provide a minor miracle. I'm happy for Ortega as well. I thought he showed some great pace. Okay, he killed the tyres, fair enough, but in our grand final, which is 10 laps long around Fuji Speedway, there's not just a mandatory pit stop, but there's the opportunity for a bit of leeway in pit stop strategy as well. So if he is slightly concerned about his tyres, then he might be going for, he will at least know that he'll be able to stop and change for a new pair of boots.
Yeah, so one more race left then. The final of the Nissan GT Sport Cup from Barcelona here with the Blancpain Endurance Series happening just outside our door, and various people revving their Nissan GTRs for the large congregation of fans downstairs. We have one final left. 10-lap race around the Fuji circuit with fuel set to ×8 and tyres set to ×20, so not quite as much tyre wear, but they will have to pit stop. So the tyre wear, for me, I suppose it's still 10 laps rather than 5. It's still going to come into play. Strategy and when you pit will be very, very key, but surely there's only a small window in the middle. You can't really pit too early or too late.
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout both the Nations and Manufacturers Cup, and these Super GT cars, by the way, one of my favourites.
Oh, yes, didn't say that.
We didn't say it. So they are changing to Super
Change
GT cars, or Group 2 cars as they are in Gran Turismo Sport. They're fascinating because, as I said earlier, you can have a little bit of leeway with the strategy. We've seen one-stops be successful in these types of races. We've seen two-stops be successful in these types of races, but if you are committed to a two-stop, there is no returning. You can always switch strategy from a one to a two-stop. In fact, we saw one race winner actually make a mistake. he fueled for too little amount, and then he had to pit in again. Regardless, that's the past. This is now, and we're looking at some of our contenders, including Ackerman, who has got a huge job on his hands. Was at the very front of this Bathurst field when it came to semi-final one. He's going to be starting near the back, and I think we're going to be seeing that throughout a few of the drivers, that they've got a lot of pace, but they're of course behind so many other cars at this point that they might be looking to strategy and thinking, well, my only way that I'm going to move up the order is by doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get stuck in a train of cars and you're not on full pace, then it's always sensible to try and remove yourself out of that pack, put yourself in the pits, and then have some clean track. We were just reminding ourselves there of Bader trying to go around the outside of Sansonatus. Here is Sansonatus, there's Ackerman, making that error at the very start of the race. Turn 1 from the front row of the grid. You know, that's a rookie error from somebody with so much experience.
He's one of these bit part top 24 players. To be fair, I'm surprised that he got pole position in his heat. I was surprised that he drove as well as he did in his heat. That was the first mistake, and it's the one that's ultimately cost him big when it comes to this grand final. Did well to recover. Again, made some great overtakes, but I'm thinking particularly about Sector 3 in Fuji. It's a fascinating track where you've got this wide open canvas to try and battle and overtake people in Sectors 1 and 2. But then Sector 3 is this very Bathurst-like, actually. It's tight, twisty, uphill. There's not really many opportunities to overtake. Sector 3 is all about setting yourself up for the huge home straight going down to Turn 1. He's going to have to be very aware of that. He's going to have to be very aware of his overtaking opportunities in general because, okay, it's 10 laps. You've got more time on the table to try and complete those overtakes. It's still not the longest race, though.
Having a quick look at some of the highlights that we've seen throughout our heats and semi-finals. There is Ben Bader, at that point qualifying through into the semi-final, but he did end up outside of the top 5 positions and has been chosen by Ricardo.
Double mental pick.
So he really has to thank Ricardo for all of that. In terms of the leading contenders then, going into this final, we've got Michael Hichal. Looks like he will start on the pole position.
Yep.
Loris Garnier from France will start P2. Patrick Blancpain will start on the second row of the grid, but P3. Is that it? Are those 3 the men who are we looking for the victory?
No. Is my simple answer. Again, I'm going to Rincon. This guy's got underdog potential written all over him. Again, he didn't have the best of qualifyings in the heats. I understand that, but he is a racer. I think if we are to look towards winners, for me personally, I'd be looking to pick between Hichal and Blancpain, like you said. They are simply the top of their level, the top of Nissan level. Garnier, he's a great driver. Does he have the potential to win? I'm not too sure. Rincon has won, and he's won from these sorts of positions. It all is down to that start and what strategy he is running. I would wager to say that he's going to go for the one stop, try and be conservative, try and get pecking order on everyone else, so if people are going to go in for 2 stops, he'll at least have track position to defend with. I'm going to say watch out for Lopez and Ackerman as well, though. They could end up on the podium.
So you can see the drivers are starting to get into their pods, starting to get ready. The pods are in grid order. So the pod on the furthest left-hand side is the pole position pod, the red machine. Michael Hichal has been, I think, in that pod all day because he was fastest in qualifying. Yep. So he's sat in pod 1 and then he's won his heat. So he's sat in pod 1 for the rest of it. Loris Garnier will be moved into a pod 2. He was in pod 1 for his first 2, the heat and the semi-final. And all the way down the line to our closest pod, which is the 2 mentor picks, which is Ben Bader, which you just saw getting in, and then Ivan Ortega, who hopefully has calmed his Spanish temperament and will be able to compose himself and get himself focused on doing the best he possibly can to get through into the final. Just 5 Ricardo drivers in this final, giving Lucas the slight upper hand with 7. You can see the difference in the teams by their shirts. Team Ricardo being white and Team Lucas being in black. Some may say that there's a difference in the temperature of their bodies right now, because I tell you what, I'm boiling.
I mean, I was going to say I'm pretty hot. I'm not pretty hot. I'm boiling. I'm also, actually, I noticed that we've not really been repping our teams as well. So we should be completely biased, honestly.
We don't even know which team people are in. We've completely failed you on that one. Either way, we're getting ready for this 10-lap final. The drivers will just be sorting themselves out, getting themselves comfortable, making sure the pedal's set and the steering wheels are in the right place with the adjustable settings that play seat rig has. And thank you again to Playseat and Thrustmaster and Sparko for all of the various bits that they've put together for this effectively European final, Nissan GT Sport Cup.
So we're just waiting. Unfortunately, nature does call. So we're waiting for one of our drivers to complete that call, and then we'll be ready to get on underway. I was going to say, you can really tell it's grand final time when there is paper strewn across the table. So many variables that we've got to consider here. And actually, I'm looking towards the back of the grid to the likes of Nussbaumer and Ortega. They've got nothing to lose at this point. For Nussbaumer, lucky, arguably, to even be in that position. Ortega, saved by his mentor, I think deservedly. Where can they finish? These are the top guys. These are the top 12. They do not get better than this when it comes to Nissan manufacturer drivers in esports.
Yeah, so they are the 12 that are going through, and we're getting ready. Pole position then, Mikhail Hischal in the red Group 2 GT 500. Look at the beast. These cars are spectacular. They run with a lot of downforce. They're a very different driving style. Garnier in second position. The Frenchman will be in that grey machine. The black machine for Blancpain from Hungary. 2 Hungarians in the final. Mauricio doing it for Spain. 3 Spanish and lots of cheering going on downstairs. Kimmo Kaisela still flying the flag for Finland, appropriately in a blue car this time. Bruno Ferreira for Portugal in P6 in the yellow. Hugo has managed to spell his name wrong. Well done, Hugo. Gustinelli, that should be, in 7. Lopez in 8th. We can't blame anyone but the drivers who have spelt their own names and inputted themselves. Nusenbauer will be in 9. Ackerman in the purple in 10. Is that purple?
That's like pink, really.
It's kind of pink. Bader in 11. And at the back of the field, Ivan Ortega for Spain. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a lot of shouting going on down below. There's
lots of support for Bader, isn't there? You could say that Hugo couldn't spell his name right.
It's kind of horrible, isn't it? I'm ignoring if that was a joke or not. I haven't even tried to work out if that was funny.
It wasn't. Short answer.
Castinelli is his new name, and he sits in P7. Bit of tyre warming going on, and then we will head down towards a very heavy braking zone at turn 1. We are racing for the final of the Nissan GT Sport Cup here in Barcelona. We're transported across to Japan, to Fuji. This circuit has only been available for 3 days, and into the braking zone at turn 1. Hischal invites Garnier up the inside. They're going to run side by side on the exit. These cars are faster than the GT3 machine. They are more reliant upon downforce. They have less slip angle. They wear the tyres in a different way, but they are hugely fun to drive and beautiful to look at. If you don't know about Super GT racing, I urge you to get onto the NISMO TV channel to watch all the highlights and all the live streams of the racing. Hisschal's missed the apex twice there in 2 braking zones, but Garnier hasn't been able to capitalise because Blancpain is behind him in 3rd position. Kaisela in 4th, Ricot in 5th, and Gustinelli in 6th position. For the moment, no change. This is a much longer encounter than we saw before. No chicane, by the way, as Garnier runs wide and Blancpain up the inside. Garnier loses the position. And this long sweeping right, left, right onto the start-finishing straight. Was there contact between the two of them? Blancpain holds the inside line still. Garnier back up to 2nd. Nice work.
That was well recovered from Garnier as they head around this twisty and tight last sector completely different to any other element of this track. That much is for certain. Already ending lap 1 of 10. I'm going to rely on Nissan's superfan and a good friend of mine, Jimmy Broadbent, for one of your fun facts of the day. You might notice the rear wings very dinky in comparison to the rest of the car. It's because of the rules and regs for these things. So the rear wing, it cannot be any wider than the car's natural configuration. That's without all the body parts, and that provides a very unique feel on the rear of the wings because there's contact, between Garnier and Blajan.